fight. We don't have to kill. Everybody in the whole wide world really just needs to chill. No, we don't have to fuss, no, we don't have to fight.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Just Chill with Oliver George. This is episode number 70, and it has been a while since we've done a recording. I'm very happy to have a returning guest hanging out with me for this one. And before we get into it, though, I want to remind you, if you're watching on YouTube right now and you would prefer audio only, you can get that on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, and other places like that. If you're doing that and you could please leave a review for the show, hopefully positive, that would be great. If you didn't know there was a visual side to this show, though, you can come check it out on YouTube. And if you would subscribe, it would really mean a lot to me. We recently hit 1.5K. I got a few hundred new subscribers after the episode with Kenny Hotz. So welcome to all of you and thank you for joining in. Finally, if you want to reach out to me, maybe you've got a cool guest idea or just some general feedback about the show, you can hit me up at justchillpodcasting@gmail.com. And if you want one of these stickers, I just dropped that one. If you would like one of these holofoil stickers, I will send you one free of charge. Just give me your address and it'll be on the way. Now, for the guest, as I mentioned, you are a returning guest, which is always fun to have somebody come back, but you were in one of the earliest episodes, episode 12, I believe it was. And you're a very, very funny writer, comedian, musician, father as well.
Yeah.
It's Tavis Maplesden.
Hello. How are you?
Not bad. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. As good as you can get for 2 years of, because the last time we chatted here was pre-pandemic, so.
Yeah, really. That's
things
crazy.
Were a bit different. Because I remember because I was here and I had to leave to go do a comedy show, and that has become much more rare.
Yeah, I'll say. Jesus. Yeah, have you still been getting out there whenever you can, or?
Yeah, whenever I can. I mean, in Ottawa, it's been open relatively more in the past 2 years than Toronto, Montreal, things like that. So, yeah, when things are open, I've been able to do comedy, but at the same time, like that's mostly just club comedy stuff. That like I really didn't go do any of the independent side rooms or anything for 2 years almost.
Wow.
Just because
the training rooms or whatever they call them.
Yeah, I mean, which I love. I love doing them, but it didn't work mentally to be like, hey, I'm gonna go out and potentially get sick.
Yeah.
For like what would be
some
a
place
fun
like Eddie's
night,
where it's like a hallway basically.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, I'm gonna cram a bunch of people in here at the height of some, surge.
Yeah. And I mean, the whole thing's been really weird. Like it's been detrimental to comedy to be living in like a moment of crisis and fear for 2 years. It's like, now make me laugh. Okay, sure.
Well, not only that, but a lot of the things comedians do is talk about, what's going on in the world, topical stuff, and the world is pretty fucking divided right now. So it feels like unless you completely steer clear of the most relevant current events, and just do silly jokes or whatever. But if you want to dig into that stuff, you're almost instantly making enemies on one half of the audience.
Right. Yeah. Like that's been really hard to deal with. The other aspect being like, if you had jokes that you're like, I could use this for a couple years, they can become immediately irrelevant. You're like, I was out the other day, and everyone's like, no, you weren't. you weren't out anywhere. I know that's not true.
That's
so it
so
makes
true.
your jokes all like 5 years old. You're like, okay, I guess I need new stuff. And then you're talking about like, you have to write new stuff that you don't want to be about what it's like to live at home with a mask on.
Yeah.
Okay.
well it's even smaller things that like I didn't even realize. I mean, kind of looking back, it's kind of strange because I'm a bit of a germaphobe anyways, but I smoked many joints with people. Yeah. And now that's something that seems very strange in a time where you're trying to constantly like sort of hermetically seal yourself from other people's germs.
100%. I'll tell you I'm very similar to that. Like I was germaphobic before the pandemic for quite a while. Like I hate, like when they was like, I don't think shaking hands will happen anymore. I was like, thank God. I didn't like it.
You mean the guy who just touched his penis and then didn't wash his hands?
And
I don't
then
have to touch his hand.
Clammy, and you're like, why do you have a clammy hand? Why are you shaking people? But like, so when that went away, I was like, great, this is fine. But yeah, I had not smoked. Like I stopped smoking weed 20 years ago. Mainly because I was like, every time I share joints with people, I get sick. And I don't like being sick much more than I like being high. So I haven't shared something like that with someone in decades.
Yeah, it's weird because I remember when I started smoking weed and, and it was like a teenager and in my 20s, it was kind of like a nice thing to do for someone. Like, hey, I'm going to smoke you on a joint. It was like,
it would be bizarre
courteous
if you smoked your own. I remember someone in university who was like, here, you can have that one. And I was like, what?
Yeah, when someone just rolls the joints and gives it to you. Yeah. Okay,
like-
jeez, I can't speak.
Daddy Warbucks over here is giving out joints. Like I'd never.
Or the guy who
experienced
always had his own pinner even was kind of weird. Yeah.
that. Yeah.
It was a communal thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Generally
It's very
speaking.
selfish for sure. But that being said, I'm deep into the world of marijuana now.
Oh, yeah?
Much more into edibles and things.
How
like
long ago did you re-immerse yourself?
that. I don't
This
know,
wasn't a
3
pandemic thing, right?
No. A couple years before that, just like nothing crazy, but like I do enjoy it. And the same way I enjoy alcohol all the time.
Oh, man, you're talking about germaphobe stuff, though, and sharing joints. Like, one thing for me, and this is not meant to be disparaging against anyone who has this, which is cold sores, but I'm super paranoid about catching cold sores because
me
I've
too.
never had one. I don't want to have one. If you ever thought you might have had one and you go on Google, you can terrify yourself with worst case scenario images.
Oh, my God.
So, it's just looking back, I'm like, wow, I'm surprised that I shared so many joints. You never really know what someone has. And I don't know why I brought that up, but it's definitely a phobia of mine. That and sharks. So I guess like a shark with cold sores would probably be the scariest thing to me.
Definitely.
Wouldn't be called jaws, it would just be called lips.
Because even if you you survive and then you're like, oh, great, there's still a risk that I'm going to get cold sores.
You like bit your arm off and you're more mad about the cold sore.
Yeah. You think that's bad? Your arm's about to get cold sores. Oh, shit.
I think it's the permanence of cold sores that I find so, terrifying. Is like
100%.
anything that there's no cure for scares the shit out of me.
Yeah.
Because it's you have to adapt your life now. This is...
Yeah,
Or,
dude. Well, it's like the past 2 years, everyone's like, if you take this vaccine, it'll change your DNA. You're like, yeah, so does fucking cold sores. It changes your DNA forever.
Other
It's in there
viruses,
forever. And those are the people that are kissing each other on the dick all the time. And you're like, okay.
Yeah, I know, right? A whole fucking generation of people who eat ass are apparently super worried about, like, I don't know. I hear about eating ass, and maybe I'm a prude, but I'm not too interested in that, if I'm being honest. Oh,
Yeah.
good God.
Thanks for
These
that.
are all nightmares to me. Oh, my God.
Imagine a shark was eating your ass. Oh, my God.
I think I would die.
This is my worst nightmare. Maybe. but it's also kind of cool.
I have so much stuff to go over here because, as I said, it's been a long time. The last episode we recorded was with Kenny, and that was December 12th. So as of yesterday, it was 2 months since we've done one of these.
Wow.
It's been 6 weeks since I posted one, roughly. And so I'm going to go over some stuff, but please chime in on any of this. And I have a couple supplemental questions I've added to sort of not make it all about me here.
I'll just make faces into the camera. You can cut away to like, huh? What?
My dad's on the cutaway, so, you got to see how on the ball he is. So... Actually, one thing I wanted to say was I posted that last episode on January 3rd with the intention to take a couple weeks off. Generally, I don't like taking huge breaks once the season's up and going. And then a lot of shit happened and kept happening and is still sort of happening. So I'll just go through this chronologically and we can, wrap on it. But about the day after I posted that, or maybe the day after that, I hit like an alcohol wall, which you sort of mentioned drinking a lot during the pandemic. I don't know if that was true or not, or rooted in truth, but yeah, it's not easy to say, but I definitely hit a low point where I felt like I needed to reassess my relationship with alcohol. And I'm not talking about joining AA or like I crashed my car. Like I'm not an alcoholic, I don't think in that sense, not to shame people who are in that situation, but frequency was still a problem, I didn't drink in the morning. I didn't drink and drive. I didn't drink and go to work, but drinking almost every day and not binge drinking, but some of those were more than I needed to have. And it just, it just fucking depleted my battery after a while. It really, so one question I did want to tie this into you is, have you had issues or struggles with that, if you're comfortable talking about it, during the pandemic? And also just with comedy, I find is a question I'd like to ask comedians because alcohol is very rooted in, the comedy club scene. And I've always wondered how the straight, clean, sober as you can be comics navigate that because a lot of them are in recovery. Yeah,
I mean, you'd have to ask them.
Yeah, no, I didn't mean that part for you, but have you had your own issues both with comedy and the pandemic with balancing alcohol?
Oh, definitely. I mean, yeah, like I've said on stage before, like I was like, I don't think if comedy took place in a church basement that I would have done it. Like when I started doing comedy, it was like the first time I did stand up, I was like, I want to see if I could do it. And then after that, it became a thing where it's like it's so more social than anything.
Yeah.
Because when you're an open micer at the beginning of your career, quote career, you're much more into like you're not making any money. You're just there to see
Get stage
what's
time.
good, like see if your jokes work.
Yeah.
Have fun, and I loved that. I mean, I really did love that, and I have achieved moderate success, like local success and stuff, but even I've been able to notice that like over the trajectory of your career, generally the more you get paid, the worse the show is going to be.
Oh, really?
For you. Like you can have great shows, but if you sometimes you're getting paid hundreds of dollars, you're going somewhere where you're like, this is going to be rough. Like this is like a church basement and these people are in their 70s and you're like, why didn't anyone tell me I'd be performing for old ladies? Like I could have changed my jokes.
I had one of those, yeah. I wasn't getting paid, mind you, but I did have an audience like that once.
Well, that's not fun. At least you get paid. It's good. But like, so yeah, I look back on like the like very freewheeling aspect of the early stuff, but a lot of it was rooted in a night out. I'm going to go out and drink some beers. And especially because like when you're first starting out in local comedy, I mean, a lot of it is like, I can't pay you at all, but the bar will give you a free beer.
I was just going to say, sure. You get a comp on a drink or something. Yeah,
definitely. And like certain places, like I always regret this. Local guy, Tash Noved, was running, a good producer, was running a show at an Indian restaurant in Bell's Corners. And
so random.
Yeah, it was great. It was this crazy little room that was tucked away above the restaurant. But they would give you free buffet before the show or whatever.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, but back then I was like kind of more nervous to do comedy. And I was like, oh, I'll eat a little bit because my stomach, I don't want to be upset and stuff. And then like 2 years later, I was like, fuck, I want to go do that show again and just eat as much great Indian food as I can. And then go up on stage and be like, yeah, how's it going? Whatever. I just came here for like a giant meal.
Yeah, I don't know that I would want to eat a bunch before performing just because I feel like when I eat a large meal, it makes me sleepy. I just want to take a nap.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I tend not to, but I would be like, for a big, because Indian food is so expensive that I was like, if I'm going to get paid in food, next time I'm going all out. Like I'm gonna come home fat. But,
I don't even eat when I work a lot of overnights at the hospital, and when I do, I never eat just for the same reason. I know I'm gonna not want to go back to work after my break.
Oh, 100%.
And the people that I work with are like the exact opposite. I think it's probably because they're full timers that do the overnight Monday to Friday thing. Like, so I don't know, they're much more used to it. But they'll have potlucks and stuff, and I just can't do it.
Mm-hmm. For sure. No, I still don't really eat much before comedy shows. I chew a lot of celery. That's my secret. Some people have seen me eating celery to show.
Can end up within your teeth. That would be the only drawback.
Yeah, you can for sure, but
it could be funny though.
But yeah, anyone else ever get celery stuck in their teeth? Then no, this bit sucks. Yeah. No, but the thing I like about celery is that it's like chewing gum almost, because like you can chew celery forever. The strings never disappear. You just end up chewing something that's like gum, and it's very watery, so it helps me like not.
Also available gum.
yeah, but gum I don't like as much because like it dries you out and stuff. And sometimes if I have stage nerves at all, it ends up being like dry throat, phlegmy and stuff.
It makes me cough sometimes. I find I'll have gum, and then if you swallow it the wrong way and it goes down your air hole, that gum saliva. Yeah. It makes me kind of cough a bit, and I've found that on more than one occasion.
Yeah, so I tend to just drink lots of alcohol instead. To answer your question,
to come back around.
No,
I love the celery thing.
Definitely, I recommend it. It's great. It's like gum, but it's better because it's good for you and it's refreshing and whatever. And you can swallow it when you go up on stage instead of. Sometimes I'd have gum and I'd like put it in my drink, and people are like, "What is floating in your drink on stage?" Gum.
I've had gum before a podcast a couple times, and I thankfully have remembered to take it out because I can only imagine how annoying that would be for like a Spotify listener or something.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, I would try to cheek it, I suppose, but I do like gum. My theory about gum, and I don't know if it's true, but I imagine it has to be partially true, is as I get older, I'm 36 now. I'm not old, but one thing I would like to try to keep is a decent jawline. And I honestly think if you're one of those guys like Dave Grohl, who's always chewing gum, Dave Grohl's got a pretty good jawline still,
You think so?
Maybe not. I haven't seen him in a while. He's 50-something now. So
I love Dave Grohl to the end of the earth, but I think he has a beard because he really has no chin.
Oh, he's trying to hide it. Oh, yeah, true.
Like if you see him young, he didn't have much of a chin.
Okay, well, maybe my theory just went out the window. But I still believe that chewing gum frequently must have some effect on your jawline musculature, you know?
For sure.
And I like blowing bubbles because I couldn't do it as a kid. And I learned when I was like 20 or something. And then I was like, this is awesome.
You couldn't do that as a kid?
No, I don't know why. I think it was something I tried enough times and couldn't figure it out that I just became frustrated with it. And then it passed a certain age where it became embarrassing that I didn't know how to do it, like someone who can't whistle or snap their fingers or
yeah, but who are these gangs of troubled teens that are like, blow a bubble or you're out of the gang? What are you talking about?
The Trident kids.
Once you pass like 11, I don't think people are judging you on.
Well, that was but sure, fair enough. It was probably at a younger age than 11 that I was felt awkward about it, but then I was just busy doing teenager stuff.
Like, if you want to bed my daughter, you have to blow a perfect bubble. Oh no. How will I do it?
Well, at what point though during high school would I like revisit bubble blowing? Realistically, though, like you're studying for exams, you're trying to date that girl or whatever. Like it just never really came up. And then for whatever reason, later on in my life, one day I think I just figured it out.
So you're saying that there should be a class in high school, like learning stuff like that?
Well, it's not very effective to. It doesn't really serve much of a purpose to blow a bubble. If anything, it can blow up in your face.
Yeah, nice one.
Yeah, that's a little cheesy. I like my dad jokes.
I used to love, and I don't think too many people remember this, but I used to love Hubba Bubba bubblegum soda. It was gum flavored pop.
I never had that in my life.
Yeah, it was only out for a little while, and obviously they got rid of it because they were like, everyone was like, "What the hell is this?"
What is this? Well, there was a lot of weird drinks like that. There was Orbits. You remember that shit?
Yeah, I don't know if I ever had. I don't like the idea of anything floating in my drink. I'm sorry. But
it's kind of like boba tea, which is huge now.
Yeah. Still, I've never had that, and it's nothing like. It's just mentally, I'm like, I don't think I want that. Yeah,
you're drinking because boba. They give you these huge straws, and you're just like, wow, I can't wait for some large thing to come up this straw. It does feel weird to just be sipping on something, and then this big nugget.
Yeah, I prefer my drinks to be not food. Usually
liquid only. Well, and I don't really care for that. I think they're made out of tapioca or something, but the consistency of them, it feels like I'm eating like a fish egg or something.
I honestly don't know. I've never had it, and I don't intend to.
No, Orbits was short-lived too. I think it was a Pepsi product. You remember those? No, they were like clear drinks that had little spheres floating inside, different colors depending on the flavor. And I don't know if it was carbonated or not. I want to say maybe lightly carbonated.
I think it must have been. I always thought it was like clearly Canadian. Remember those? The clear pops.
Those were good. Yeah.
But it had chunks in it or something.
Yeah, they were pretty weird. I don't know why anyone thought it was a good idea. And the worst by far, like they tasted all right, but the worst was the white one because it was coconut and it was just fucking disgusting. Really? I thought. That's my opinion. I'm not a huge coconut guy, but I wanted to throw up the time that I tried that.
I like coconut mixed with rum because I like boozing.
Coconut? Coconut with chocolate I can do, actually.
My favorite thing about coconut is how they're like, it's vegan ice cream. It's made from coconut instead of milk. And you're like, okay, what does it taste like? They're like, chocolate. You're like, do you taste coconut? Like, not really. And then you're like, it's coconut ice cream with like a hint of chocolate. Like you can't escape the flavor of coconut.
Yeah, that's an overpowering flavor for sure.
So like you end up with like raspberry and 80% coconut flavor. Like if you didn't like it, you're like, I guess I won't have it.
They have oat ice cream too now, and all these.
Do they really?
Yeah, there's an oat one. I'm sure there's probably almond ice cream.
There is. I just heard about that. Yeah, I love oat milk.
Oat milk?
Yeah.
I drink almond milk, actually.
Yeah, that's all right, too. But I really, of the alternative milks, oat milk is my favorite. You know what it goes well with? Booze.
Okay. So I should actually follow up on that. I did end up not drinking for 2.5 weeks.
Nice.
It was bolstered by the fact that I caught COVID, so drinking became extremely unappealing. But before I caught COVID, I'd say I went about a week without drinking, and I was very much happy to be in that mindset. It was a really great cleansing experience to just hit the reset button. Because once a few days passed, I just felt like I was thinking in a different sort of perspective, and I felt more like myself than I had in a long time.
Yeah.
And then subsequently, since then, I have had alcohol a few times, but I feel like I've been able to maintain more of a control over frequency and over, dosage. And dosage sounds like weird, but I guess it's accurate.
No, sure.
So yeah, I don't know. It was a weird thing, but getting into the COVID though, that was not fun. And I felt like it was a karmic sort of thing. I don't know if karmic, is that a word?
Yeah, I think
Karma related. Okay. Yeah. So, because I essentially felt like I was really hungover for a week, and it just felt like a slap in the face from the universe. Like,
yeah.
Oh, you quit? Oh, it's going pretty good? Yeah, fuck you.
You should have just started drinking.
Here's your penance. Yeah, dude, I couldn't have handled it. I felt like I was going to puke a lot of that week.
When was that, in January?
Yeah, it was probably second week of January, I want to say. I was sick for about a week. It was weird. I had, I should say, I was double vaxxed, but I had not gotten the booster shot.
I don't think that would have helped too much.
I don't know. I'm not sure because Kelly, my spouse, for people who don't listen to the show often, she caught it and her symptoms developed a little later than mine. But I would say she had less overall severity of symptoms, and she had gotten her booster. So maybe that's neither here nor there. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, the jury's out on that stuff because
it affects everyone differently.
Yeah. Like we had COVID in mid-December.
Okay.
Which turns out around the time that there was other Ottawa comics who had COVID. Like,
yeah, it went around a bit. Yeah, I had a show in December that not a lot of people came to, and I think it's because a lot of people were sitting out.
Yeah.
The whole scene at that point.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, I'm pretty sure. Without, like, I've told people this for 2 years. Like, I think we had COVID in February 2020, and in March was when they were like, COVID's here in Canada and in Ottawa and stuff. And I'm like, so what are the odds that 3 weeks ago the worst cold I ever had in my life was COVID? And people are like, well, I don't know. Did you get tested? I'm like, you know why I didn't? Because the test didn't exist. Like, it would have been nice to be tested. But that was bad. Like, I was really, really sick for 3-4 days.
And you were fully vaccinated?
No. This is 2 years ago.
Oh, okay. Sorry. I thought you were talking about December now.
No. This is 2 years ago. Okay. And that was bad. My wife was really sick. Like, she was coughing all night, couldn't sleep, went to the doctor and the thing, like the apple thing, whatever it's called,
Apple Tree Clinic,
and just trying to get like something, and they were like, we don't know what it is, blah blah blah. And then we got better, and then in December I was like I think I might be getting COVID or
Omicron,
not sick. Well, it was like Omicron's coming and it spreads faster than wildfire.
Yeah,
and at that point I was like, well, let's live our life and see what happens.
And it was supposed to be less severe in a lot of the
sure.
symptoms compared to Delta and all that.
Yeah, because like I think that's the trajectory most viruses take to evolve, is that they spread further with less impact. That being said, people have been impacted greatly by this, and it's not something to take lightly, but mine was the second time. Like, I'm double vaxxed and I've had COVID twice. So
the first time you were not
I'm
vaccinated,
invincible,
so that's
at this
irrelevant.
point. But that's why I just keep trying to drink so much to see if I'm like Bruce Willis in Unbreakable. Like,
how far can you take it?
Yeah. No, but this one was like, I felt unwell, and then one day I was like wiped out. Like, I couldn't move. I was like, I just want to lie here and do nothing. And the next day I felt pretty good.
Yeah, my experience was somewhat similar. I felt like very fucked up all of a sudden, and it was like full body chills. And the first like 24 hours, I would say, I was like, oh, I'm sick. You know when you're sick. Like, you know that feeling?
Yeah.
Whether it's your throat or your sinuses or whatever, but you can sometimes just tell when you've got that flu-like vibe. And, I wasn't sure it was COVID, but I was pretty positive because just there had been a lot of that going around, like you were saying.
Yeah, what are the odds? Like,
yeah, exactly. And the first 24 hours sucked balls. It was like really brutal. And then, 7 days after that, I was good. And the rest of that week was more like just felt like a hangover. I was kind of nauseous. I was extremely lethargic. Like I had no will to do anything. I remember when I got it, after the first day of feeling like garbage, I was like, oh, this, I'm much better than yesterday. This is not cool, but I was like, well, I can't work. And if Kelly has it too, she's going to be home. It's kind of like a little, you're forced to stay home and maybe do a lot of things you've been putting on the shelf. I'm like, oh, I'm going to paint some miniatures. I'm going to do all this stuff that I've been putting off. And every day I just didn't have the energy.
Oh, for sure.
Between walking the dogs and taking care of a toddler who he was with us, we assumed he had it too. It was just by lunch every day I needed a nap. And sometimes those naps were like 2-3 hours. And then, you make it till just after dinner and then I'd be out again. So that was the worst part, was just feeling like bored as fuck after a while and it just dragging on so much.
Definitely, yeah. It doesn't allow you to do anything. Like in the olden days, if you had a cold, most people would just go to work, and which I always hated. I've always hated those people. Like, well, who's going to do whatever I do? And you're like, I don't know, nobody, and it'll be fine. Like, your job's not that important that you can't take a day off work to stay home and not make everyone else sick.
Not like an admiral or something.
Yeah. Even them, I'm sure. Yeah. I'm sure a vice admiral would be like, I can pinch hit today.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, for sure. The first time I had it in February 2020, I went to like our back bedroom guest room, and I think I slept for like 4 days. And I came out to drink like water and to be like, are you guys okay? And then I slept so much that when I was done being sick, my wife was like, you actually look better than you did before. Because I didn't have black circles under my eyes.
You
I wasn't
finally
tired.
got some much needed rest.
Yeah. Because I've been up with my son at like 5:30 every morning for like 3 years at the time. And I was just like, I don't think I'm getting enough sleep. And especially doing comedy, because sometimes you get home at 1 in the morning and you have to get up at 5:30. I'm like, this is not sustainable.
Wi-Fi, that sounds like newborn shit though.
Well, when he was going through, it was just a cycle at some point. Like he's really good at like 7 o'clock now. But like when he was,
that's like our kid wakes up at 7 now.
When he was 3 or something, there'd be like a couple months where he'd get up super early.
Yeah.
And even if he's like, okay, well maybe I'll go back to bed, and like, well, I'm not. I'm awake now. You woke me up.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like that too. If I get woken up, I can't just. Some people have that gift that they can just turn over and be fucking snoring again, but
yeah, not me.
No,
not at all.
I should say the worst part actually of COVID for me was that I didn't see my oldest 2 kids for like 3 weeks.
Yeah,
because they were set to come home the very next day after my symptoms developed, and their mom, rightfully so, wanted to keep them until we were symptom free. And then because Kelly's symptoms didn't start until a few days later, there was that lag overlap or whatever. So yeah, by the end of it, it was 3 weeks, and now we've had them for almost 3 weeks, and I'm happy for them to go back to their mom. No, I'm just kidding. So, wait till you have a teenager, then you can me.
Yeah.
You'll
you'll
get it. No, they're great, and it's just every year the kids get older, you definitely have new challenges, and the teenage years have been already. He just turned 13 at the end of fucking December at the end of last year. And it's already been, the hormones are flying.
Oh my God. Yeah, dude. I'm kind of wondering, because my son's 5.5 and he's still got like the tons of attitude where he's like, I want to be my own person and stuff. And I'm like, is this going to like cool off between like 7 and 11 or something? And he'll be like, yeah, I like hanging out with my dad, instead of being like, I don't want to do that. I want to play Pokemon only. And
maybe he's just a Spitfire, rebellious kid,
Hopefully, yeah. Doesn't take crap from the man.
I was gonna say, wanting to be his own person, like those are good goals, But you mean like undermining your authority kind of shit?
Yeah, definitely. Like he's definitely in a phase where I'm like, let's go, and he's like, no, I want to stay. And I'm like, okay, let's stay then. He's like, no, I want to go. Like it's always no for whatever. I'm like, okay, get in the bath. No, I don't want to have a bath. Okay, time to get out. No, I want to stay in the bath.
Yeah.
You're like, you can't do this for the rest of your life.
Yeah, that's par for the course of that age, though, to be honest. I have a 4.5-year-old, and it's a lot of that stuff, too.
Yeah.
I was going to say, the weirdest part, though, about the teenage stuff is having to, like, remember that not that long ago, I was probably the exact same way. But then also, on top of that...
Oh, yeah.
Well, yeah, I was going to say, on top of that, also being able to now align myself with the shit that my dad must have been feeling when I was putting him through the ringer, Like, it's just interesting to have been at both ends of that,
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it's I'm sure gonna be even worse as they go on. Not like
it's
bad, but teenagers, yeah, it's a weird time.
Yeah, for sure. Well, yeah, it's hard to remember what it was like as a teenager, but you're like, your brain is hijacked by hormones, basically.
Well, yeah, and I try to compare in my thinking that, like, okay, if my 13-year-old is giving me a bit of attitude, like when I was 13, I was starting to smoke cigarettes. Like I was doing way worse shit. So
yeah,
if he's given a bit of attitude, comparatively, it's not so bad.
Yeah, definitely.
Excuse me, Jesus. Yeah, so COVID, it was what it was. It was an experience. It sucked, but
Honestly, dude, at this point, like with Omicron, because like the writing was on the wall with Omicron. They're like, by the way, everyone's gonna get it. Like they didn't say that, but they're like, it seems to evade everything. So and it spreads insane. So I was like, okay, well we're gonna get it, and I mean, and we got it without knowing. Like it wasn't like someone was like, hello, I was at your house and you have COVID. Like I was just like, oh shit, I'm sick again, and it's gonna be COVID.
Yeah.
And now 2 months out from that, I'm like, you guys didn't get Omicron yet?
Yeah, you feel
like,
a little bit like reassured. You're like, oh, I've got all these extra antibodies and like.
I felt that way the entire pandemic because I was like, I already had this. And here's the thing. I mean, everything is so divided right now.
Yeah.
And it's like, where is the support group for people who are like, I believe the vaccines work, but I also believe in natural immunity. Like they both exist, but they're now polar opposites where it's like you basically have to worship vaccines or exactly. This, and it's like they're both like, things.
I'm willing to wear a mask still, even though you're hearing conflicting reports about if the material ones even serve any purpose. I understand that frustration. I'm willing to wear one because to me, it's not that big of a fucking deal. Like that's my main reason. So I will not wear one forever. But when I see people like up in arms about the mask, I'm like, really, that's the hill you're going to die on is having to wear a mask when you're buying groceries. Like I honestly, like you were saying, pre-pandemic, you could catch a bunch of shit at the grocery store anyways. Like it's a crowded place with gross ass people.
Not even during the pandemic. Because if you remember the first couple weeks, at least, the mandates were like stay 6 feet away from people.
Yeah.
And you didn't have to wear a mask. And I had forgotten that, but I have a joke about going to the beer store and one time not wearing a mask and then wearing a mask. And it's like a joke that I do about how my face looks. And I was like, wait a second. Yeah, we didn't have to wear masks for the first while. And you were just like, keep away from people. So if they sneeze on you, you can run away quick enough. And then... And then the mask came in, and but the masks initially, like, you know what? They do work. You know how they work? Because if someone has a mask on and they sneeze into it, it's going to catch at least some of the sneeze and not spread that everywhere. Yeah,
so even if it's just helping like a 5% chance, like
you also can sneeze into your hand, you know? That works better.
But then you're going to touch a doorknob or something, you know?
Sure, but in the moment, that works better than just being like, hey, Oliver, and I just hit you right in the face with it. Like, that's not good. But I think the mask represents a social contract that's like, I'm not a threat and I'm not crazy. I'm coming into your store to try to buy something. Yeah. And so when you see someone without a mask, you go, hey, man, we don't know if we can trust you. And this is before what's happening now. It's like, we don't know if we can trust you because you're not willing to be part of the social contract that says, hey, I respect your medical autonomy as well. Yeah. And people are like, well, I don't believe in that. You're like, well, then maybe you shouldn't be in here right now.
Exactly. Yeah. It's the thing, like, you don't own this store if that's how they're abiding, because that's how most of people are abiding. And it's not something that's like detrimental to you. Like, wearing a mask is not going to fucking hurt you unless some offshoot chance that you have some severe asthma or whatever. I'm sure there are cases of people who actually could have some negative repercussions from wearing a mask, but they are few and far between, you know, like, it's not the norm by any means. And most people are not going to have anything bad happen to them if they wear a mask. But it's much more about the ego and about the mask representing, like, being like a muzzle, so to speak, for lack of a better term. You know, it's like, this is the government telling me what to do and all this shit. And like, I don't know. I just don't fully see it that way. I think it's in the middle somewhere. But
yeah, I think I was thinking about this. I think there's some aspect to the mask that robs people of their innate ability to, like, not judge people, but like know someone by seeing, like, even right now I'm looking at you and I can't see your mouth because of the microphone, right? Yeah. And so I'm getting less of a picture of your entire face than I'm used to. Yeah. And humans, like,
can I sidebar? I've actually thought the same thing when I'm interviewing people sometimes, and I always notice people with really nice eyes. Just wanted to say that.
Thank you.
Yeah. I didn't say you had nice eyes.
You implied it.
All right. Sorry to cut you off.
Yeah, but it's like it's hard to handle. It's hard to handle not seeing someone's expressions, because humans, you can like draw two dots in a line on a wall, and people go, "Hey, there's a face."
Yeah.
Like, we're programmed from, I don't know, millions of years ago to recognize faces.
And
in
if you're drunk
anything.
at parties, it's definitely penises on people's back. And
Sure,
with a Sharpie.
Yeah, well, that's an easy one to recognize.
Yeah, exactly. It's a very universal symbol as well.
Especially with balls. If you don't do the balls, then you're
Or
just
some sort of liquid shooting out as well.
Yeah.
Also, that's the third.
what is this, a
little touch.
long C? What's this long
Yeah,
C all
exactly.
about? You need balls.
Or it could be a cigar.
Yeah, but I mean, I think people are struggling with that aspect because you can accept this stuff and be like, okay, I do what I do. I wear a mask to go in somewhere. It's not my favorite thing. And as soon as mask wearing is dropped, like if you think people are just going to keep wearing them, you're crazy. Like they're like people are like, I don't like wearing a mask. No one really does.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, there are people now that are so like affected by the pandemic that they probably will maintain because like think of how many people are coming out of this thing with no personality.
Yeah.
Like for the past 2 years, they've been so violently anti pandemic measures or so violently pro pandemic measures that tomorrow, if someone was like, hey, we are dropping the mandates for whatever reasons are happening.
They don't know what to do with themselves now.
Yeah, they'd be like, well, what am I going to fret about now?
Yeah.
They're like, I don't know, Bitcoin. Like, get something else.
Yeah, it's
Who
something
the
to
fuck knows?
rally behind.
Yeah.
It's something to just kind of motivate people to get out and do anything because things get stagnant during a pandemic, I don't want to call it a pandemic. Pandemics are boring in their nature if you're doing what you should probably be doing, especially at the beginning, which is locking down and all that crap.
Yeah.
It's
I mean, and,
cabin fevers.
yeah, for sure, of course. Like, do you remember how many people got divorced in like the first 2 months of the pandemic? Like, that's crazy. That's like how many people were like,
Makes sense though.
but in the first 2 months, like how fucking like precarious was your relationship that having to spend time with someone for like a week was like, all right, I'm out of here.
Yeah, I suppose 2 months is kind of, I think, maybe the point where people started to realize that this is going to keep going for a really long time. And that might have been the shit or get off the pot moment for a lot of people. We're like, all right, this has already been going bad. It's only been 2 months and now we're signing up to be together forever. Fuck this,
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, the whole thing's been really crazy. Like it's hard not to. It's funny, we were talking about like, do you do jokes about the pandemic or not? And you're like, you kind of don't want to, but at the same time, it's like, but what the fuck else has been happening?
Exactly.
For 2 years?
That's the world right now. Yeah.
It's almost weird to be like, you know what was crazy when I was growing up? Always this stuff, and people are like, what are you talking about? Like, let's deal with real life.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you have to be so, like, first of all, it's psychopathic to ask people who have been living through the same 2 years of like stress and confusion to then get up on stage and be like, entertain us, make us laugh. You're like, I'm not always feeling like laughing.
Yeah.
Like, things are fucked up. But then to also have to read the room and be like, oh, these guys don't really want to hear this. Like I found earlier in the pandemic, it was like the host of a show could get up. This is when things are open. The host of a show could get up and be like, hey, what a crazy thing, right?
Plexiglass.
And everyone goes, ha ha ha. And then the first comic up could have like a couple of pandemic jokes. And then people are like, yeah, this person also acknowledges the pandemic's happening. The third person could do like one and be like, have their thing wherever they're like their plexiglass thing. Like, I'm
It has to peter off though. Yeah.
Yeah. And then after that, they don't want it. Like by the time like the feature act or whatever comes on, they want none of it.
Well, because any performance is escapism for most people. I mean, like comedy is unique in the way that it is very topical sometimes, but I would think with something as big as a pandemic and people feeling the way they are, it's just like, I bet there wasn't a lot of stand-up comics, well, in general, during World War II, but I don't think many of them would have been doing like Hiroshima jokes or some shit, like
They would, though. They were.
Were there?
Yeah, like, I mean, there's always the U.S. Army and British Army, whatever. They would send
USO tour and all that
they
shit.
would send, but they would send troops over. Like I
always thought that stand-up sort of started in like the 50s with oh my god, as if I'm blanking on his name now. Lenny Bruce, like he was one of the, because before that people didn't really stand for someone being super blue, like in at least not on mainstream media.
No, yeah, I mean, I really couldn't tell you the history and stuff.
No,
but
yeah,
it
I don't
goes
want to
back.
try and pretend I know all the stand-up comedy history.
It goes back a lot further than that, and stand up would be the equivalent of like being on stage with like like strippers and like
yeah,
it was
exactly.
like more
Like a burlesque show or something.
yeah, burlesque and like that kind of entertainment. So you were like even up until the like Yuck Yucks opened clubs in Canada, I think,
which was the 70s.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
The like the places you could see stand-ups were still at strip clubs, like the Fillmore
or a casino or something. Probably.
Maybe, sure, yeah.
I don't know.
Like it started as a very like kind of like underground, lowbrow kind of thing, but they had lots of stuff. Like they would entertain the troops overseas with like sketch troops and stuff like that. So
I just didn't know how far back that stuff went. I know like Bob Hope was the big guy, but when would that have been? Was that World War II or was that more like Vietnam and shit? Yeah, that's what I thought. Or the Korean War was like the 50s, right? But
yeah.
I don't know. My dad might know a little more about this, Bob Hope. And
you're old as shit. What happened back then?
Well, he was definitely Vietnam. I'd be pretty sure that he'd be Korean as well, just by his age, you know. I mean, and Bing Crosby and those guys, they were making not pro-war, but they're making movies about the war. Very like 46, 47, a few during the war. I mean, and there were lots of Kaiser jokes and, you know, things like that. I mean, you can bet.
I'd like to know, though. I'm going to look this up now and get a little more information on like the real roots of stand-up. Because I know you can go back to like the 1800s and be like, oh, it sort of came from vaudeville. And, you know, like, but I mean real stand-up, one guy, microphone, like more in line with what we would consider stand-up or classic,
yeah,
you know, stereotypical stand-up, whatever you want to call it.
I mean, that probably starts, like what we consider stand-up probably starts more in like the
60s or something.
Yeah, I guess so.
The same time that the music started to get a little more revolutionary and out there and the drug movements and all that, that's sort of when I'm thinking that it got pumping and really, you know, step into the next level.
Yeah.
You were talking about, this is a bit of a tangent, but you were talking about seeing each other's mouths and something I forgot to write on here. And I'll ask you as well if you've taken up any hobbies during the pandemic, but I just started learning American Sign Language like, I think it's only been a few weeks, but I learned like a couple hundred words. I learned the alphabet and really been trying to immerse myself in that for no other reason than I've always thought it was really cool. And then I started doing them with my little son who's 4.5 and he really has taken to it too. So, but I did realize that, you know, the lip reading is super important because we had a deaf person come and do a placement at our work and they had special masks that had like the plexiglass so you could see the lips and all that. So
yeah,
pretty cool stuff.
Yeah.
But have you taken on any hobbies during the pandemic period? Something that you legitimately had never tried before that you're into now?
Oh, Jesus. I don't think so. I'd have to, you should give me a heads up. I could have gone through my
I hate when people ask me, like, what are you going to ask me? Fuck that. It's got to be raw.
No, I don't think so, really. I've spent a lot of my time just living my day-to-day life. And it's funny how much free time I don't have because I'm like, yeah, I have nothing to do today, and then something happens and I have to do it, and then that's it. And then my son's home, and then I can't go like I'm gonna go paint. I would love to paint. It's like I would
like
give
painting
up,
like big paintings or
yeah, like Bob Ross style painting, just like painting all day. I would love to do that. I'm terrible at it, but I would give up my other artistic endeavors.
You can watch Bob Ross videos and learn from him.
I don't want to do that.
No.
But I like.
You just wish you could
to.
just. Yeah. That's like me. Like I wish I knew how to skateboard like a boss.
Yeah, for
just
sure.
like maybe playing Tony Hawk and stuff growing up. I just always thought watching skate videos like you must feel like a G when you do that shit and you grind a rail. I mean, not when you crunch your nuts or whatever, but some of the guys like Tony Hawk are like, I don't think he fucks up too often anymore. You know what I mean? Like the real pros, like. Unless they're trying something new or whatever, but everything else is basic boo-boo for them if they're staying consistent.
Yeah, definitely.
But I always thought it was so badass, you know?
Yeah, my older brother was a skater. He was great. He was a really good skateboarder. He still busted out once in a while, but I couldn't do it. I was terrible at it. Like board sports.
I couldn't ollie. That was the
yeah,
name.
neither can I.
Like I actually can skateboard well.
That's your name.
Yeah, I know.
Do it.
I can skateboard well in regard to staying on the board and getting from point A to point B. Like I have had many skateboards over the years.
Staying on the board is one of the most important parts.
Yeah, it's fundamental, some would say. No, I have a longboard now too, and I use that all the time in the summer. Like if I don't want to drive for whatever reason. Maybe gas is expensive or I'm drinking or whatever, but or it's just fucking gorgeous out. You know, it's really, really nice on a summer night to just go in like suburban streets where there's not a lot of actual traffic. The odd car might be pulling out of their driveway or something, but I had a great time doing that for hours last summer and getting tons of exercise in the process. But I can skate like that. I can carve out, you know, and I can reach down and grab the board and do stupid shit like that. But if you can't ollie, you can't do a lot of tricks.
No.
It's very, very...
almost none of them, actually.
Pretty much, yeah. Well, no, you could do like a manual or something where you're on two wheels.
Sure, yeah.
There's a couple moves you can do.
Yeah, and you can do like a shove it or something.
Yeah, but the majority of tricks are rooted in first popping your board up and then doing something. So I don't think I'll ever be able to. And you watch enough videos too and you wonder like, am I going to get super hurt doing this? If I don't have the natural talent just there brimming off of me, then I'm probably going to get hurt more than the guy who does. And I don't know if I was, wanting to commit to that.
Oh my God. Age factor. It's like,
oh, now, God, no.
Like your son, you said he's 13. Like you should give him a skateboard and go, here, go. Worst thing that happens is you break your ankle and for 6 weeks you can't skateboard.
Yeah.
You do that when you're in your 30s, you'll break your back. You lose your job because you can't go to work. It's so like true. It's crazy. I used to play. I played a year of men's league soccer, and when I was in my late 20s, early 30s, I don't know, and I saw some injuries happen and stuff, or like people like slide tackling and stuff. You're like, what the hell are you doing? Like, these guys have to go to work tomorrow.
Yeah.
Right? You see a guy taking off on a stretcher with like a broken leg. You're like, this is fucking rec soccer.
Yeah,
dude.
this is like
this is an excuse
just for fun.
It's an excuse to go out to the bar after soccer and have a beer and nachos. And this guy's leg is broken. Like if someone was running at me, I'd be like, go ahead.
That's very much how I felt in gym class growing up when people were so like acting like they were at the Olympics. And I'm like, dude, we have math after this. Like, it's not what you're making it out to be. And a lot of those people were pretty mean to shitty guys like me who were not athletically inclined. So I found, a lot of sports to be very off-putting.
Yeah, I mean, it's that drive. If you don't have that drive for that.
Well, it's also the machismo nature of things. I don't know. Hopefully it's evolved since I was in high school or whatever. I see a lot of people seem to be more progressive in general than compared to the 90s,
Yeah.
Like you wouldn't be like, oh, you're so gay. Like people used to say that stuff all the time. A lot of things have changed. So I'm hoping that the locker rooms aren't like, douchey like they used to be. But somehow I doubt that they've weeded them all out.
Yeah, I'm sure they're not perfect. Because like to be like the higher echelon of sports you go, the more driven you have to be and like solely driven for,
and a lot of people,
anything really.
A lot of people are able to reach that drive through aggression, unfortunately, too, I think.
Well, yeah, obviously it helps because like sports are what is a sport other than like my team's forcing a goal on your team.
Depends on the
except
sport.
For baseball. Baseball's fucked.
Well, any non-contact sport is hugely different from football or something.
But they're still contact sports. Like basketball is one of the most like I'm an alpha, you're a beta dominant things, and it's technically a non-contact sport. But like if you see someone,
if you're not counting fouls, yeah.
Well,
but I was talking like tennis, where you physically can't touch the other person, really. Like
right, yeah. Well, that's true. That's not as violent of a sport. Obviously.
You could try and fucking bean the other person, I suppose.
Yeah, you could, but they know you still have to be incredibly aggressive to be good at tennis. Like you have to get up and every day and hit the fucking tennis ball for 14 hours a day.
Those fucking shorts on.
Yeah. With your big, huge man dong hanging out because you're such a man. No, but it's like to be driven to do anything. Like I would argue the same thing with like doctors. Like I was thinking about this the other day. It's like I saw a tweet from some doctor that's like, oh, I had to put off my adulthood for like 10 years and I'm grossly in debt and I did this to like help people. And I was like, that's bold. That's very, I'm very happy for you and like, thank you for that.
It's noble.
But it's like, yeah, it's noble for sure. But I was also like, man, I could not do that. My mindset, I would never be able to have the drive to go to a hospital and spend a 14-hour shift. Like you do that kind of sleep for an hour in the closet.
I work overnight, but I'm not doing 12s or anything like that. Yeah. My shifts are like 6 or 8 hours,
But that drive, like
Kelly does shit like that though.
Yeah, for sure. And it is noble, but at a certain point, like you're like, oh, no one ever asked you to be noble. they're driven to do it. They're like, I
Well,
want
and they get paid a fuck ton. Let's not forget that
Yeah, for
aspect.
sure.
That like if you're a fucking cardiac surgeon or something, you are sitting pretty as far as house and car and all that other stuff.
Right, but you can also make lots of money just being a financial advisor.
True. Yeah. There's other ways you could go about it.
And you train that for like, I don't know, a year doing that instead of 10 years of your life and you're in debt and all that stuff. Like,
Well, I just don't think I could actually do, if we're talking about doctors, like specifically surgeons, I can't even imagine like, oh, you're going to cut this kid open and like take his whatever out, you know, or like, how do you not like faint in that moment? I guess they practice, but don't you need to practice on real people before it's really real?
I feel like they weed out the surgeons that faint every time they cut someone open.
Well, yeah, okay. Yeah, no, okay. But I'm not saying fainting because you're cutting
You failed the test, unfortunately. You kept fainting.
Yeah, okay, fair. Yeah, I don't mean someone who faints like if anyone cuts someone open, but like you're the one cutting someone open. And especially if it's high stakes and it's like this surgery is like going to dictate whether this person lives or dies. Like that's what I'm talking about.
100%. But I mean, those people, at that point, you're working on a puzzle.
Yeah.
It's not a person. Like I doubt.
How do you remove yourself from that? They must be in a flow state or something, you know?
Because you're looking at it like mechanics, I guess. Like it's like opening up a car engine, and you're like, which piece is missing and what's out of whack and stuff.
Yeah, and I don't mean to sound mean against doctors, but that aspect of it to me feels very inhuman and very like kind of cold to just be able to like look at someone as like the parts that they consist of and take away all the. I mean, obviously it's necessary so that you're not.
But you have to. I think you
freaking out.
Like
but
that.
Yeah. Anyways, I was going to say one thing before I moved on from the COVID thing. I wanted to know. I think I talked to my dad about this, but I did watch a movie that I had always heard of and never seen, and I really don't watch a lot of movies and TV anymore these days. I find I just don't have time. Mm-hmm. But I watched Falling Down. Have you ever seen that movie?
Yeah, ages ago.
Michael Douglas?
Yeah. You forgot my briefcase.
You've seen it too, Dad? Yeah, we talked about this. I just thought it was a pretty rad movie. Mm-hmm. And it's the dude who made those shitty Batman movies. It's Joel Schumacher.
Is it really?
Yeah, which I found surprising. If I'm not, I hope I'm not getting that wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's what I saw in the opening credits when he's in his car and stuck in the traffic jam.
Yeah, but that movie has been like popular since it came out.
Yeah,
like when it came out, people were like, "Oh my god!" Like people thought it was cool back then.
Well, yeah, for sure. It's always had an audience. No,
it's more of a cult movie because it was small. But people back then were like, "Oh shit, this is crazy. This guy has had enough."
Yeah,
and
I mean, I was like 7 when it came out, so I wouldn't have seen it back then.
Yeah, I would have been in my like early teens or whatever. So
yeah, you're like 5 years older than me or something, right?
I was born in '79.
Oh, you're 6 years older than me, but so you're 42 or almost. You don't look 42 at all, man.
Thank you.
You dye your hair? Or
first
can I
my
ask you
eyes
that?
and now this.
I think that's so funny. The first time he came on, I'm pretty sure you made jokes about me like buttering you up or something too. So I guess it's a through line there.
That's why I'm here.
You're irresistible, Tavis. I don't know what to say.
Thank you. Yeah. No, I do not dye my hair.
Sorry, maybe that's too personal. It looks very natural. That's why I felt safe asking that.
Yeah.
That chestnut you've got going on.
It's definitely going away here, which was like a long, slow process. I remember like 8 years ago, I was in the shower. I'm like, where are all these like hairs this long coming from?
Mm-hmm.
Because my wife has long hair and women's hair falls out all the time. Like they have so much hair that it comes out. And I was like, maybe she has short hairs that fall out. And then 6 years later, I look in a mirror like this and I can see my widow's peak. I'm like, oh, fuck. What happened to my hair?
Yeah. At least, well, you don't have the spot at the back though, eh?
No. My family tends to go widow's peak, which in my estimation is if you got to lose your hair, that's the best way to do it.
Yeah, because especially when you get into an older decades of your life, having any hair is good. And if it's hair you can part and comb over a little bit, you can rock that look.
Dude, I was at the dentist a couple of weeks ago, and I had this new dental hygienist who was an older lady. Usually they're people in their 20s, 30s.
Yeah.
She was older, maybe in her 40s into 50s. She was really nice, but she was like, "You gotta floss and stuff." And I'm turning this into a joke right now about like, because you know when you go to the dentist and they're like, "Oh, it's your gums are bleeding an awful lot." I'm like, "Well, that's funny. It doesn't happen when I'm at home and not poking them with like a metal stick." Like, I wonder if it's the jabbing into my gums that's making them bleeding.
Scraping.
And then she's like, "Yeah, you gotta take care of your teeth because if you don't if you don't take care of your teeth, like 40 years from now, like you won't have them anymore. I'm doing the math. I'm like, well, I'll be in my 80s. I don't really care. Like, I expect to have dentures in my 80s at this point. Like,
Yeah.
But then she also was like, she's like, the thing about teeth is they're made of like, they're made of these things like minerals and stuff. So it has to do with like what you eat and stuff. And but also, I mean, it has to do with what your mom ate, because when you were inside your mom, that's like where your teeth were kind of made and stuff. And I'm like, I know what teeth are. Like, I have teeth. I was like, I didn't come here for like an explanation. Like, oh, is that right? Teeth. Okay, cool. Yeah. Thanks for.
I guess I've been using them right all these years.
The more you know. Oh, great. Yeah,
oh my God, that's so funny. Oh man, yeah. I do not enjoy the dentist. I have pretty decent teeth too. But what you're talking about, the scraping and the poking and all that, man. And I guess that means they're being thorough and you have a good dentist. But I hate that shit.
Yeah, I don't mind it. I've never minded the dentist, and I feel bad for the dentist because no one likes them. Like imagine going into a job where you know that most people won't like you. Like it's like being like the medical version of like a bylaw officer who gives tickets. Like their job is not fun.
It's necessary, but no one really thinks you're cool. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, they hate you. Like you gave them a ticket, and they're like, "Oh, come on, let it slide this time." And they go, "I can't. I already printed it out." And they go, "Fuck you."
I don't know. I liked my dentist. I had the same dentist until a few years ago. He passed away recently. And my dad, he was your dentist too, right? And he was a really nice guy. I don't know. I had a lot of good conversations with him when my mouth was not full of fingers or tools.
Yeah. Oh no, they're not bad people, but they've gone into a position where the majority of their clients go there against their will. They're like, I don't want to go to the dentist. No one's happy to go to the dentist. Like,
and that fact, I wonder how many people ask them, have you heard that, or is it true that dentists have the highest suicide rate? I always hear that. I don't know if that's true or not, but they must hear that shit a lot.
Yeah. I mean, who else has high suicide rates in the medical profession? Like, if you're so driven to save people, it doesn't seem like you'd also be like willing to kill yourself very easily.
Yeah. I wonder which though, like other professions have high suicide rates.
Cops.
Cops, why they see something so fucked up, and
I think being a police officer is a very difficult job, and
I don't think anyone would argue that.
They see a lot of hard things, they experience a lot of hard things, and I think it causes like a lot of male guys to withdraw with those. They don't talk about it enough and stuff. And I think it's pretty high rate with police officers. Yeah. I
would imagine any like first responder, there's the chance that they see some really shocking stuff that just fucks them up forever. Yeah. I used to work with this girl at my current job. I work in sterilization and
sterilization.
I'm a sterilization technician, I guess you would.
So you just bring people in and sterilize them?
No, the instruments.
Don't get too close.
No. It's surgical instruments.
Is that what this is? Is this my sterility intervention? Grab his balls.
Throw him in the chamber. Yeah, no. No, I work in sterilization for surgical equipment and all that. And I worked with a lady who was, I don't know, almost retirement age. I want to say she was in her late 50s or something. Really nice woman. And we got to talking one time. She told me all about how her previous job was her husband and her were like the cleanup people at like crime scenes. And apparently you don't have to be a cop or anything. You just have to get the right certification and all that. So she told me like all the most fucked up human decomposition stories she had, and it was pretty disturbing shit. She told me about slippage when like they would grab somebody who had been there so long that their skin would like kind of slide off their arms and shit. Really fucked up stuff. Some guy who tied himself to a tree and burned himself to death. And like she said another one where this lady had been like, or somebody, I don't know if it was a woman or man, but the victim was in for 3 months or something. So like when the smell, obviously, but they said they couldn't even see the person because there were so many flies on him. Like it was just black. Like, so I don't know why I'm going down such a dark avenue here, but
maybe it was a Swarm from the Marvel comics. Was made of bees. He was
a Nazi.
Weird. Yeah, was he really?
He was a fucking Nazi. That character. Nice. I know you know your comics. Yeah, we got to get into that. But
dude, that must be crazy because. And the nutty thing is, like, I've come close to that recently. Like, I was helping someone, empty an apartment of someone who had unfortunately died, and not died in a gruesome way or anything. Like it was just like emptying an apartment. A friend of the auto comedy community actually, and and I halfway through I was thinking like this must be an industry. There must be, because like I've been doing decluttering services in the Ottawa area and home organization. So get in touch if you need some help. I
it can get messy in here.
But no, if anyone viewing needs
oh, you're talking to the camera. I thought you were pointing at my room, being like, oh, this shelf's a little messy.
Yeah, what's that up there? No, but yeah, I never thought about it before. But there are jobs like that. I remember seeing a movie about that. These two women who were a death cleanup crew, and it was a dark comedy. It was maybe like 12, 15 years ago. And you're like, oh my God, I didn't know that existed. And the stuff people have to see, like if you're a first responder cutting people out of car wrecks with the jaws of life,
especially kids, for whatever reason, I feel like that would just be
anything. And yeah, it's nuts. Like
yeah, but let's be honest, and this is maybe a dark way to take this, but if you were in one of those situations and there's somebody who's like really old, like senior citizen age, and you're helping them out of a wreck, there's no way that's going to be as bad as trying to help a kid out of a wreck, because the person's closer to dying naturally, and that's going to factor into your brain. Like
I honestly think the older they get, you'd be happy about it. You're like, yes, he's dead. No, but yeah, for sure. I mean, it's going to be crappy no matter what, obviously.
Well, the thing I thought was weirdest about that lady was that she was like the cheeriest, uppity person who, like, when she told me, I thought she was joking for the longest time, because I was like, well, there's no way you did that and you're this person who's like a little Care Bear, like, you know. She was so upbeat and positive all the time. And then I'm thinking, you've seen all this harrowing shit and it hasn't. Maybe it has the opposite effect if you do it long term. Maybe when you see enough death,
it'll be the same as the surgeon. You're just treating it like this.
It's clinical or something.
This isn't a person anymore. This is a body that we got to clean up because we've been hired to clean up this place.
Yeah, but I'm taking it a step further. Like maybe that inherently and that acceptance of that helps you with death in general. And then all of a sudden, they do say most people that, accept death in a larger way end up realizing how to live their life that they still have more efficiently or more fully, and being more in the moment and present and all that, because they're not spending so much energy stressing about death.
Well, yeah, I mean, that girl probably walked out and she's like, you know what I'm going to do with my life? Not be covered in flies all the time.
Keep my skin on.
That's how I treat. I'm going to keep the skin on the outside. That's the best thing I can do.
Shit, man. If I can pivot here, actually, because you were talking about receding hairlines and all that. We're going through the things as to why I haven't posted an episode in a while. So we've got dealing with drinking too much, COVID. I actually had some technical computer problems too. That's not a really exciting thing to talk about, but I had to get a new monitor for whatever that's worth and do a bit of research. But then I got plantar fasciitis, which I don't know. Do you know what that is?
Yeah.
It fucking sucks. And I'm still pretty in the throes of it right now.
On one foot or?
Yeah, 1 foot is, it honestly started with like, my long-winded question, by the way, if you want to pre-think, is getting old woes, like things that you find you're suffering from that you never had before.
Sure.
But yeah, it's basically like my heel just started feeling like it was a gigantic bruise, and I would just try to walk and I'd be like, ow, like why does the bottom of my foot hurt for no reason? And I thought it would go away after a couple days, and then instead it kind of spread up into the back, like where your Achilles heel is. And sure enough, when I went to the doctor, this all makes sense now after getting the little pamphlet and my exercises that I have to do and stuff. But yeah, it fucking sucks. And I didn't really know this was a thing before it just sort of changed my life now. And apparently it can be chronic, and I'm going to have to get orthotics probably. And so it got me thinking, like, you're a little older than me even. So what are some things in the last, let's say 5-10 years that you never had issues with before that are really kind of plaguing you at this point? Physical, obviously.
Well, I've had things come and go. I mean, I had skin cancer on my face.
Oh, shit.
I have a spot here.
That's a huge
that
one.
I had removed a couple months ago, maybe in like November or something. And that was not fun.
Damn it, you're terrifying me, because I had like a spot on my nose that I was a little, concerned. Not concerned, but it looked like a freckle that was a little bigger there. And I was like, has that large freckle always been there? Mm-hmm. And then recently I had a zit or something that I popped. And when I popped the zit, Sorry if that's gross for anyone. But
We've been talking.
yeah. Well, some people watch Dr.
So I
Pimple
grabbed this
Popper.
old lady's face and the skin comes off, and some of it got in my mouth. But also, warning, I popped a zit.
I don't know, man. Oh, okay. Anyways, yeah. So when I popped the zit, though, I noticed like a lot of blood vessels in that area just instantly like went red, and it took longer than it should have to kind of heal up. It's pretty much back to normal now, but it had gotten me thinking like, I think I'm going to ask my doctor what kind of things qualify when you should be worried or whatever.
Sure.
So yeah, what was that experience like then? That was
great. I loved it.
No, you already said it was bad, but
no.
I mean, what did they do? They lasered it or?
No, they cut it out. I had a spot, like a mole, that when I thought it was a mole, that when I would wash my face, and I use like that like face scrub stuff,
exfoliator or whatever.
Yeah, it would get irritated, and I was like, it's been a long enough time. I should get this checked out because I don't want it to get worse. And so I went to the doctor, and they said come back in 2 weeks, like let it not get irritated. And then I went back. I went in, and so I basically had like diagnosed cancer for about 5 minutes because she's like, yeah, this looks like skin cancer. Go over there. And I lay down on the thing, and she froze my face, and she just went cut this thing out. And then I went home, and I'm like, holy shit, I have a huge like crater in my face. It's healing.
I can see a little, but I mean,
no, but I mean, it was like.
It's not something I would have noticed, like, had you not mentioned it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's getting better, which is nice.
It's dimple-esque maybe a little bit, but, like, no, not even.
Yeah.
That's pretty minor.
No, I'm okay with it, but it was rough.
Better than cancer, for sure.
100%. I had a show that night, too. Like, I had like 4 shows that week, so I had to wear a Band-Aid on my face, and everyone's like...
Nelly style.
Yeah, everyone made that joke.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
Here I am thinking I'm original.
No. And... And people were like, what happened to your face? And I was like, I had skin cancer. And they're like, okay. And I was more worried about, like, is this thing going to show up on stage? Because I don't want to go up on stage and have to address why I have a Band-Aid on my face. And then the comedy...
Yeah, but you can get a bad zit that leaves a big mark for a long time if it doesn't, heal properly or whatever.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I could have lied about that. And
you never do stage makeup?
No.
Is that a weird thing to ask? If I'm being honest, I have.
Really?
But it was a habit I formed from doing this show because we have extremely bright lights down here, which I think overall makes the show look pretty good and pretty professional. But I did notice a lot of time I would always have a really shiny forehead. I don't know if I'm an oily guy or whatever.
Yeah,
but
I am for sure.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe just different people have different skin types. And
I hope it's not catching a glare off the camera. And
it probably is, yeah. And that's all I do. I'm not doing the whole running the gamut with like eyeliner or anything. It's just the, what do they call it? It's not even foundation. Foundation is like the stuff you put over zits or whatever. But this is like you take a brush. It's like a makeup brush.
That's foundation, I think.
Is that still foundation?
Yeah.
Okay, well maybe there's different types, but it's like the powdery shit that you just kind of fluff on the shiny parts and they become more matte and less reflective and stuff.
I mean, I don't do that. If I did anything, I'd probably do that. Like if
that's all. I did that once or twice before like a show, if it was like a competition or I was in a place where I knew I was going to be like really sweaty if it was a summertime show but I don't know, maybe that's lame or weird. I don't know.
No, I don't know. Do what you got to do, man.
Yeah, whatever.
I choose celery. You
oh, that's your phone. I thought it was a chair upstairs.
It's the truckers.
Okay, well, yeah, let's go there because.
But yeah, no. To answer your question really quickly, I have broken down body things that I just.
Oh yeah, sorry.
I just work around at this point. Like I must have injured my shoulder like 20 years ago. So if you and I were playing catch with a baseball, after a while I'd have to be like, okay, I can't do this anymore. Yeah. Or the next 2 weeks my shoulder will kill. And I injured my heel, and that doesn't work properly. And so it sucks because I wish I could still play sports. Like I'd love to go play pickup basketball with people, and I love basketball. I'm very driven to play. Like if you were like, let's go play basketball, we're only going to shoot around, I would eventually get you to play one-on-one with me because that's what I want to play. And then I would eventually just hurt myself.
It wouldn't be worth it.
Yeah. No, which sucks. But
did you see Tom Segura's injury from basketball?
No.
You know Tom Segura?
Yeah,
familiar?
yeah.
Okay, yeah. Well, he was playing with Bert Kreischer and I guess some other friends. This is like maybe 6 months or a year ago.
These guys don't look like the healthiest dudes in the world, first of all.
Yeah, I would say they're like healthy for Americans. I know that sounds mean, but I mean, Bert Kreischer kind of celebrates his gigantic pot belly, so like I don't think I'm really speaking mean here. But yeah, it's a crazy video though because he just kind of slips by accident, and the way he lands on his arm, it's just like backwards after. It's pretty gnarly.
Yeah, that's like traumatic injury, but just like stress injuries. Like if I went and jumped around and played stuff, my back would be all seized up too. So it's depressing. Getting like
I think it's normal at this age to have a couple of those body part things, though.
Yeah, for sure. But like contrary to what everyone thinks, getting older is not as much fun as you might think. But it's fine. You get wiser too, and you know what
exactly.
you do. And
That's the trade-off.
Yeah.
Well, and not only that, but physically speaking, sure, I might be more prone to this, that, or the other thing. But I also care way more about trying to stay in shape than I did when it came naturally. Much like other things, if something's handed to you, you generally don't work very hard for that thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We're teaching that with the kids now, like to do your own fucking laundry, so that when they go get their first apartment, they're not like living in a pile of filth because no one ever taught them how to do that kind of basic shit. You know? It's being
I feel for your kids because I've done the laundry maybe like 15 times in my life. I just always had my parents or my wife to do it and stuff. Like even when I was in
you had no period in between parents and wife where you had to do your own laundry.
No, I did. I mean, I lived at university. I lived in residence and then with my roommates and stuff. But I would save up like all my clothes and wash them, and then
like once a month.
Yeah, whenever. I don't even remember. So I'd take it to the coin op. So it wasn't often. And then in between that, I'd take my clothes home and wash them at home over Thanksgiving and Christmas and stuff. So it worked out that I didn't have to do laundry. Like I'm very much like the way that some old people are with computers. They're like, oh, I don't want to press the wrong button. Like that's how I feel with like a washing machine. Like,
really?
Yeah. Like
I was going to ask, is that your most hated household chore?
No, putting away the dishes is the
really?
most. Yeah.
I fucking love the dishes.
You love putting away dishes?
Not, I mean, putting them away is, I guess, the more boring part, but I do like
I like washing the dishes.
and like if someone's saying, oh, everybody needs to do one task, I will happily take all of the dish stuff because
Really?
yeah, I mean, I've heard this before too, and I do find it that when you're washing the dishes, it can be kind of like a meditative sort of, you just get to be alone with your thoughts for a couple minutes doing this manual labor that doesn't really require much actual intelligence,
Yeah,
Don't drop dish, that's about it.
Yeah, I listen to a lot of podcasts like this one on...
You actually do listen. That sounded like... you're just flattering me, but I know on a couple occasions
weird that I'm like advertising your podcast on the thing. Like,
no, but you've sent me messages once or twice that whenever anyone does that, it means a lot to me. You're like, oh, I listened to you talk to John Doerr or something. You told me about when I recorded him, I talked about some time I had seen him and part of his performance he did, and you were like, oh, dude, I was at that show.
Yeah.
So, anyways.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I
take support whenever I can get it.
Yeah, for sure. But like that, I just to say like that, I do that when I'm doing the dishes, like I listen to something or music or whatever. It's great. I don't mind that. But putting away the dishes for some reason, just I hate it so much.
I would have to say cleaning bathrooms sucks.
I like cleaning the bathroom.
Cleaning the toilet? Really?
Yeah. I
like it being clean afterwards. Like I like the result, but I don't know the labor of that.
I actually don't care. I don't care if my bathroom's not that clean, but if you ask me to clean the bathroom, I don't mind. I'm like, sure, yeah, spray stuff down. Like I can fix your toilet too. I've clogged so many toilets in my life that I learned how to fix them.
I'm a good unclogger. Yeah, I think it's like the dad role in the family to be the handy with the plunger.
Yeah,
I know I am. Yeah.
But
oh boy, guys, I gotta say this is like riveting stuff. Like this is like.
Yeah, but did you ever fix one of those low flush toilets?
Now we have a low flush. It's fucking brutal. Hey, we're in our 30s. We're boring dads sometimes.
We can cut this out of the whole.
Yeah, you can always jump in with some energetic discourse if you're gonna criticize us. Jesus, no.
Well, it's fun listening to you guys talk about my aches, my pains. I'm sitting over here like 30 years older than you, 25 years older than you.
Yeah.
You guys have no idea.
That's crazy.
We're starting to feel it, though.
The funny thing is because I don't remember we asking your opinion about it. So.
Ollie always says, chime in if you have something important to say. So.
Well, no. I mean, you can talk whenever, really. A lot of the time, I turn to you about certain things because you're a knowledgeable dude, but...
we can get it ramped up.
I was going to say, well, there's one thing that we kind of, the elephant in the room, being that this is an Ottawa-based podcast, and right now, I guess the city is under siege or whatever terminology you want to use. So, let's get into it. I thought about, maybe that was one of the reasons I probably postponed doing another episode even longer. I probably could have done one a couple weeks ago, but this stuff was just happening, and I kind of wanted to see how it played out, and I feel like we talked about with the comedy audiences during COVID and all that, it feels like if I say anything, even if it's like a measured opinion or I back it up with why I think that, you're instantly making a bunch of enemies, especially with this shit right now. I don't think tons of those people are probably watching my podcast in the first place, but
Yeah.
you know, I don't like making enemies, and I don't want people to feel like I'm writing them off. But I think this shit's pretty ridiculous. I think that it's really brought that division that I already felt online on social media, saw in the U.S. since Trump basically, really brought it to a, you know, reality that's I can't ignore. Or not to say I was trying to ignore it all the time, but you know what I mean. It's on our doorstep now, and it's dividing friend groups and I don't know, man. It's just been a weird time.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, as we're recording this, it's February 13th,
Yeah,
and the siege protest, whatever you want to call it, at Parliament is still well underway.
yeah.
And who knows? The crazy thing is, by the time you put this out, there could have been a firefight in the street. There could have been all this crazy stuff.
This is hopefully going to be going up tomorrow.
Okay.
I can't promise that, but we're going to try and edit all this to, you know, after you leave in the evening tonight. So hopefully it'll be as relevant as we can make it. But yeah, it's true. It's things are happening so quickly. Every day there's a new headline hitting the news and all that. So it's been very weird.
It's very sad. I feel the whole thing is sad because it's like kind of saying goodbye to like an innocence of Canadian culture, because they've turned especially here in Ottawa, they've turned the Canadian flag into like a symbol of fascism to people and stuff. Like people like flying that means like that you're racist or whatever. And the reality is like lost somewhere in between. Like we have these factions, and we've had it for so long, where it's like, I think it's like 10% on the left and 10% of people on the right who are violently
over the top
that way.
Yeah.
And then 80% of the people in the middle who are like, I kind of believe in a multifaceted view of life.
Yeah.
That isn't hardline, but who do you hear from? You don't hear from people who don't have a strong opinion about stuff, or who are like, yeah, I have opinion, but I wouldn't go and drive a truck through a building about it. So you hear like the squeaky wheels on either side, right? And these people are like, you have to do this and you have to do this. And then we're getting forced more and less that if you're not in one group or the other, you're in the other one. You can't be in the middle. Yeah. So, and I'm not in the middle. Like I fucking Christ. The truckers put you in a position where they're like, what, you don't like freedom? And you're like, of course I like freedom. Like, give me a break. It's ridiculous. Like,
it's like too like oversimplified everything.
100%. Yeah. And they're making people like de facto side with the government. Like, I don't want to be on the government side and like the
I'm not in bed
state
with the man, but like, I don't know, your crazy anarchist ass isn't really that appealing to me either.
No,
and, dismantling of democracy, and I'm all for protesting, but if 100%. It's done in a legal manner, like everything they did with the trucks, they're breaking tons of laws, and now like fucking yesterday they had hot tubs on Parliament, a concert stage, all this shit, which to me is like, there's a lot of ways you can go with that. You can say, oh well, they're trying to make it look family friendly and recruit people into their cause, which I'm sure is true to some degree. But it's also just like, even if there's none of that, what the fuck does this have to do with your protest? Like, I mean, I guess the jacuzzi is just to stay warm, but like,
it doesn't. It's all illusory, right? Because this aspect, like, there's a whole aspect of like, it's just a party. We're happy down here and stuff. You're like, you're happy protesters. I've never seen.
That's not supposed to be the point.
I've never seen a happy protester. Because if you're happy about stuff, what are you doing here?
Yeah, you're like, clearly pretty free right now.
Yeah,
you're
and
like,
I've been down there. I invite people to go if they feel
safe enough.
Yeah, if you don't feel safe, don't go. But it hasn't been overly unsafe.
Yeah,
well,
and I've heard.
I mean, I'm a white guy. I could put on a black and red checkered shirt and go down there, and people are like, what is he? Like
it's like when the zombies in the you cover yourself in blood and guts, and then the walkers can't smell you.
Yeah, exactly. I just cover myself in diesel fumes, and they're like, hey, all right. But it's like, but you go down there, and this idea of like, they're just having a party, like, and it's like, no, they're not. I've seen their eyes. They're sad. They're confused.
Misguided.
They're 100% misguided.
There's
a
lot of these conspiracy types that are behind or a part of this, which a lot of that shit is rooted in drama if you dig into it, man. Like,
Oh, yeah.
a lot of people, and I've talked about this on the show before because a therapist talked to me about this that I had on the show, but also just in my own life experiences. I won't name names, but people who are close to me or have been close to me, I've had fractured relationships because the conspiracy stuff, there's a healthy dose of it because we should question things. We shouldn't just, swallow the pill or whatever. But there's also just the people who go off the fucking deep end, and it's like it becomes anything that's counterculture, anything that's counter institution is now the word and what I'm going to follow. You know?
Dude. And the crazy thing for me is thinking about like, well, is there a level that you maintain? Like if you believe that JFK was murdered by the grassy knoll shooter, can you be like, that's a kind of conspiracy that I can see happening? Or do you have to go like
to the moon landing and
flat Earth and moon landing?
Yeah.
Like at what point can you be out there and still be like, that's not true? Or do you have to go full in? And
well, that's what I would love to see. I'd love to see some moon landing, someone who thinks the moon landing was fake berating someone because they think the earth is flat, and it's like, oh yeah, like you deserve to be on your pulpit right now, like your shit's just as ridiculous. But so where is the tiered system here?
There isn't one. I think as soon as you pass like a certain point, you're just like, I
drink
guess
all the Kool-Aid.
I guess it's all
well, and to me the glaring hypocrisy is the whole, I mean, they're against the mandates, but they're also saying the reason we hate these mandates is because we don't have the same opportunity to work. So first of all, we should address that the whopping majority of truckers are vaccinated and they are still working right now. But I agree with not forcing someone to get vaccinated, but these truckers, like, are you telling me there's no interprovincial or even just within Canada routes that need to be filled? I feel like that's...
Yeah, but I mean, it's not really about truckers. Like the reason this is a trucker convoy is because the people behind it were like, you know what we could use as siege engines to shut stuff down is big trucks.
Effectively. And
like if you bring the fucking sedan convoy, like they're like, we
smart
can move
cars.
Yeah.
No, sorry, but the point I was trying to make was the hypocrisy being that they've now put out, like, everybody who works in the downtown core and the Rideau Center have not been able to work for weeks now. Like, what? You can't work, so you go make a big fuss about it and then put a bunch of people out of work. Yeah. And really, you could have worked, but you were just being specific about those parameters.
Yeah, I mean, if you're looking for hypocrisy and like irony and stuff, you'll be able to spend the next 20 years looking at this thing in retrospect. Because it's obviously there's so many ridiculous things about it. It's hard to know where to start.
Well, there was those arsonists, which I suppose, I don't know if they've been directly linked to, but hey, there's a bunch of rambunctious fucking people downtown causing all kinds of crazy shit. And then all of a sudden there's these two people who try to burn down a residential building, and there's video footage of it all. And they tried to tape the fucking doors shut so that people would burn alive. Can you imagine if that actually happened? This shit would have been over immediately. If a bunch of kids and people had burned to death in a building.
You'd hope so. Or like the way that things are spun, people would be like, they weren't with us. You go, well, it looks like they were with you.
Yeah.
And like,
or like the other thing that I've heard thrown around online, which I tend to agree with, is if this coup or whatever you want to call it was done by a bunch of Native Americans, they would have been shut down immediately.
Like, they would have been shot, dude. 100%.
Yeah, well, exactly.
Like,
they would have been
like this way of like protesting by using large trucks or whatever you can get your hand on to shut things
which
down.
Can be weapons, essentially.
Oh my God, for sure. You could imagine you just drove down the sidewalk, killing people. Sure.
Really.
But it's like at this point, and I don't consider them the truckers. Like truckers are bad. Guess what? For the next few years, people in Ottawa are going to flip off every trucker they see. You be like, go fuck yourself.
See, I wouldn't do that, knowing that the whopping majority of truckers are not a part of this.
Sure, but there's going to be this lingering like doubt that they are a good person, because like, man, you guys brought it right to our doorstep, and it's really
well. Can I point out? Of course, you can't paint everybody with the same brush, but how many times in like media? And I know it's just movies or whatever, but have you seen truckers portrayed as like assholes, disgusting people, racists? Like, I'm not saying that makes it true, but I'm saying that those stereotypes may have evolved from some nugget of truth, that like, I don't want to say the wrong fucking things where like the truckers union's gonna fucking hate me or something. I'm not, again, I don't think all truckers are bad people. I think
of course.
most of them are not being shown right now because they're not the loud fucking blaring ones. Like they're on the road right now delivering shit.
Yeah, like what I was saying is like I feel like the truckers as a entity are being used by the people creating this because they needed them. They couldn't just drive in their own car and stuff.
They need that blockade, yeah.
But like this idea of like them being heroes and fighting for freedom and stuff, it's like, hey man, the minute you guys go blockade something that isn't for you, like you go help an indigenous protest of an oil pipeline going through your land. The minute you're fighting for someone other than yourself, we'll look again at like the term hero.
Your motivation.
But right now you're in a hot tub and you're a whiner. And you're like, I'm whining. And you're like, good. You know, guess what? Like, I don't know what you're doing down there because I hate freedom and I literally love the pandemic and I love being home all the time. So like,
there's 6 masks on right now.
Why are you fighting for the thing I don't want? Get out of here. Like everyone wants the pandemic to be over.
Yeah.
Don't bring your politics to it where you're like, but we also want to be in charge of the government. Like, are you kidding me?
Exactly. Yeah. It's like, again, I'm with you. I don't want to wear a mask. I don't love all these mandates and stuff. But with vaccinations as well, it's hard for me because working at the hospital, but even more so having a spouse who's an ICU nurse, it's like consistently for a long time now, the only people they get in there, especially people our age or younger or around that, not like senior citizens that have COVID, are the unvaccinated.
Yeah.
Like, I know not everyone is privy to that kind of firsthand. I'm not the ICU nurse, but I obviously trust my betrothed, to not bullshit me about this. And, I don't know. It's hard for me because I wish I could, like, everyone had that kind of a connection so that they maybe would think a little more reasonably about these things and not get so carried away with the fantastical aspects of whatever appeals to them in that moment and just look at like, no, the people who are in the ICUs right now aren't vaccinated. Like that proves at least to some degree that vaccines help. I'm not going to say they're a cure.
Yeah.
Because I still got COVID, but I don't know. I can't help but wonder how much sicker I would have been if I wasn't vaccinated.
For sure. Yeah. And you'll never know. And that's the thing.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the thing where the other side can flip it and be like, well, how come half the people in here are vaccinated in the hospital? Like in ICU, yeah, it's like say...
But that's not true. That's what I'm telling you. Like, at least in her experience, like... People that are our age that are vaccinated aren't coming into the ICUs.
Exactly.
They just aren't. Like,
but if you look at like the numbers of stuff, it's like even if a place had like a number of vaccinated people in the hospital, you're like, well, look, they're in the hospital, and you're like, but you guys represent like 8% of the population, and you represent 90% of the people
in the
like you're like, yeah, there might be some other people in there, but it's not like it's 50-50. It's like a willy-nilly, like, oh, you're in the ICU and you're in the ICU. It's like you're all potentially in the ICU, and like, I don't know. I really despise the world these days, like the Twitter sphere and stuff, because it's nothing but division and it's ridiculous and it's like all false. Like there are people that patently just make things up and go, this will spread, and for good or bad, like for whatever side you're on. Like there's just so much false stuff out there, and it's so confusing for people.
Yeah, it's really hard to know what to believe.
Everyone's angry.
Yeah. Everyone's built up, and that's obviously partially the pandemic, everyone being cooped up and stuff. But I try to go with like, okay, like you said, you went downtown. I try to know or see what I know firsthand and not just absorb what's in the media, because, that's one of their main arguments is like, oh, you're like a CBC junkie, like you're getting this doctored version of what's really happening. But I don't know, man. Everyone I've heard interviewed from their side, and then again, some people I've seen in real life myself, shockingly don't look like the types that have a high school education. They're all speaking in terrible grammar for whatever that's worth. I guess some people will say that's a stupid thing to get hung up on, but they don't seem highly educated. No, and I went into the fucking grocery store yesterday, and people are becoming a lot more emboldened because of what's going on downtown. They feel like, oh, like I'm a little resistance fighter in this one Loblaws, like, and that's the humor of it to me. I'm not even saying I know everything, I'm right, you're wrong, but it's more just like, a lot of the ones I saw yesterday, they're all just doing it for attention more than anything. I'm like, you're going to tell me you walk by this old man in the grocery store and you don't feel like a dickhead right now because you could easily have a mask on and it wouldn't be a super nuisance for you?
Yeah, 100%, dude. Like, and going down to the to Parliament, Like the one thing you don't get from any of the things you'd see online or on the news is that they're all constantly streaming it. It's all performative. If half the people have phones, they're going around, they're filming themselves, they're filming the whole thing.
To play devil's advocate, isn't that kind of true of like existence in 2022, that everyone's always filming everything? Look at a concert. No one's actually watching the person on stage. They're all watching through their phone. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but that's a concert. This is like a 2-week thing where it's constant. And
yeah, true. It's been going on.
There's 10,000 for every 2 people there. There's 10,000 people at home watching it, being like, "Look at this! I want to watch the stream of literally nothing happening."
People like partying.
But it's performative to show like, look, we're actually doing it. And like, doing what? And like, we're doing the thing that you think, like, it's not necessarily all that real.
Yeah.
What's happening? Everyone's there to prove that something's happening, which isn't necessarily actually happening. Like, they're not fighting the good fight. They're just filming themselves yelling freedom.
Yeah.
Like, okay, like, what does that do?
No, nothing. Especially when this is all at a provincial level where they really need to be sticking their noses, and they're down at fucking Parliament, which is all federal. So it's and the fact that they expect a Trudeau to just show up when like he's probably afraid of being like shot. I would be. A lot of these backwoods motherfuckers, and they all hate you, and they're openly saying fuck Trudeau. Like, who the fuck would expect this man to show up? And I'm not super pro Trudeau these days. I voted for him to get weed legalized, and every time since then I have not voted for him. But
and he did that, man.
He did do that.
Whatever his legacy is.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of the blackface. I think that's disgraceful. You know, he's had a lot of shit since then that made me go, oh man, why did I vote for this guy? But the weed, you got to give him that.
Definitely, yeah.
We can get high during all this fucking anarchy right now.
Yeah, exactly. I like him for that. No, I didn't vote. I don't vote liberal.
But regardless of what you think of him, like, to expect anyone in his position right now to come on some podium and be like, I heard your requests and I'm here. Let's rap, guys. Let's talk about it.
Like, 100%. It's ridiculous. And I mean, the funny thing is, it's like, these people don't represent like a lot of people.
No.
Like, I could probably get the same amount of people together and go demand that I talk to the prime minister, and he'd be like, what are you talking about? You're 200 people.
Yeah, it's like they expect that he's just going to come with a big rubber stamp and be like, oh, okay,
yeah,
log on.
Yeah, but also, like, this is my analogy for this, like, the fact of, like, this violent mob stuff. It's like the people who are like, I don't know why Trudeau just doesn't go talk to them. Like, first of all, why would he ever do that?
Personal safety, yeah.
But secondly, it's like imagine there's a woman's shelter, and there's a woman inside, and her partner finds out where she's staying, and she's outside he's outside the window, and he's like, Shelly, get out here. I want to talk to you. And the people inside would be like, yeah, just go talk to him, Shelly. You know, he's probably just wants to talk. You're like, no, you don't
like
send
drunk and shit.
You don't send someone out to be
we're supposed to be together.
Yeah. And that's like, yeah, why don't you go talk to this angry mob? You're like, I don't know.
Forget the restraining order.
maybe because they're described as an angry mob. Maybe
Yeah,
that's why I
exactly.
won't meet them.
Well, and again, the people I saw in the grocery store, I hate to say it, but they were all exactly like, at least physically, appearance-wise, they're exactly what I expected. That one guy had like a, I don't know what else to call it, but like a Russian-style hat with the flops on the side. I have one of those too, but he was wearing it with like a red plaid. He just looked like the stereotypical hoser. I've never seen a hoser.
Those are ear diapers, man. Real men don't wear those. We let our ears take whatever they can get outside.
Yeah, I want free ear holes. But anyways, I see this family after though, and there's a mom and a dad. Both look like fresh out of jail, like that kind of look, you know? And the kids all look like they're headed to juvie, like that kind of family. And they're all walking with this swagger, like they want as many people as possible to see how bold and brazen we are with not giving a fuck, because we don't give a fuck, because freedom. And it's just like exactly what I fucking thought. And they looked like fucking drug users for sure. And I'm a drug user, but you know what I mean when I say drug user.
Sure.
So then I happened to leave at the same time as them, and they had one of these big fucking trucks, which I gotta say, I fucking hate trucks before all this. Just my own personal experiences again. But they had, might as well have said "Make Canada Great Again," some fucking slogan like that. And then on the other side, "Save the children." And all I'm thinking is like, yeah, save these children from these meth head looking parents. You know, it's just so fucked up what's going on right now.
Yeah, no, it's not good, and it doesn't end well. But it's part of the cycle of where we are in terms, like,
it's a breaking point. Like,
well, I really feel like we're at the like western end of the empire kind of thing. Like, like the decline of the life of the wealth and prosperity of America, especially in the UK, like Western Europe, Canada, is declining. Like we have our children's lives aren't promised to be better than ours. They may make less money. Like look at the housing market. Like look at people in their 20s and 30s who are like,
the environment is probably the big one there too.
Yeah, but I mean humans are never going to do anything about that. Like that's not.
Well, we can not ramp up the speed of our own demise. You know what I mean?
Sure.
By putting precautionary measures and stuff like that to try to mitigate some of the bullshit.
Yeah, and I mean, but honestly, when you can make 1 penny more in profit as like with solar power than oil, the oil companies will be like, "Bye, we're green companies now."
Yeah,
like it's about money. And they don't care. And until then,
but re-implementing a new infrastructure for that kind of thing is what really takes time. You know, switching to solar is not like a decision. You just go like, okay, let's throw all this shit out and like, you know,
for sure,
it's more of a gradual kind of a.
And there is a move towards that and stuff.
Yeah, with electric cars and
yeah, it's confusing because you want to keep like everyone wants the lifestyle they think they were kind of promised.
They're entitled to or whatever, yeah.
Entitlement is a very big issue.
Well, wasn't that long ago that there was world wars and shit like that? Like, you know, like when we were in school growing up, it was already a while ago, I guess. But Vietnam wasn't that long before, you know, a couple decades or whatever. So I think every generation has these huge events that affect them. We just got stuck with the pandemic. That's ours, you know?
For now.
For now, yeah, exactly. It could get worse. I mean, I guess we had 9/11 too, but we're not Americans, so we weren't maybe as directly affected by that. But
yeah,
it was pretty huge though when it happened. I remember that being like, even in Canada, definitely.
Hey, I'm looking at the Twin Towers right now behind you on that CD book or whatever.
Where?
The white thing below the New Mutants poster.
Oh shit! Yeah, that's right. It's a Beastie Boys album from a CD. Yeah, it's the New York skyline. But you're right. I didn't even realize that shit.
Yeah.
I mean, I knew it was up there, but as it pertains to this conversation, I hadn't clued in on that.
Do you remember where you were on 9/11?
Yeah, I was
in grade 9 or 11.
Grade 10, I want to say. I was grade 10. Yeah, and I was. It was after first period. We were just switching classes or something, and you know, you see people in between periods that maybe you don't have class with or whatever, and someone I know came up and she was like, oh, you know, they attacked the Pentagon. They attacked, like, I don't know, the world's under attack. I don't even think they had attacked the Pentagon at that point, but she was just like doomsdaying it a little bit. And then we went around to all the classes that we could get to and told them to like turn on the TVs or like, you know, some teacher was like, what are you doing in my class? And we're like, ma'am, shut up. This is a huge like world.
And you roll in. I remember rolling in a TV on that,
very much.
that tall wheel
with the VCR or whatever combo.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. And we all got high after that and said like, well, I guess we can skip school the rest of the day.
Yeah.
I very much remember that.
Yeah, definitely.
Not that we were like, yay.
But
Sweet.
it was a write-off. I was in university at the time, and it was a write-off. Like, classes were just canceled, and we're like, what the hell are we supposed to do? But it was a Tuesday, and I know that because it was cheap drinks at the Shot, which was a bar in
Yeah, you were a bit older than me,
Yeah, and we were like, I guess we'll go to the bar tonight, and we did.
Yeah.
And drank beer and talked about, like, wasn't that crazy?
Well, because I think that even in Canada, like, it obviously still instilled the fear of, like, oh, we're not necessarily safe just because we're in North America. But at that time, I still honestly think that I probably was like, yeah, but who's trying to attack Canada?
100%. But literally, people were like, thought this could be like 9/11 could be like a worldwide thing. And like, you could
that they were going to start. Yeah, I remember that. People were like, where's the next spot going to be? Yeah.
Yeah. I remember people being worried about that. I was much more like you. I was like, I don't think they're going to bomb Kingston anytime soon.
Yeah. So anyways, pandemic aside, this whole movement with the truckers is a thing to behold, to say the least. But they've got kids with them too, which I find kind of fucked up. And I know I've heard a lot of people talking about that especially since it's like very cold during a lot of this.
Yeah.
And they're living in trucks and stuff. So I had heard that people were going to get like child services involved, and that was one of the angles they were going to try and.
I don't know, man. I think the whole thing is set up for conflict. And
that's what I'm worried, yeah.
The fact that there isn't any real conflict yet.
The fact that they're kind of blatantly announcing, hey, we don't have enough cops. We're outnumbered. Like, it's probably not something you should put in the news.
Right.
You know?
I mean, that's been...
Keep that close to the chest, maybe.
The city of Ottawa is going to have a reckoning about our.
And my dad was talking about
police
the police
services
chief and all that you were
everything.
saying he should be,
Oh, I think slowly has not represented very well at all.
You reacted too slowly.
Yeah, maybe.
Sorry, it's low hanging fruit.
It's I think I won't be surprised if it won't happen tomorrow, but some point in the future, he'll be gone.
Oh,
I think.
I would imagine so. Yeah.
I think he's lost his job.
Yeah, well, we had talked about this too, that, you see reports of cops helping them bring the fuel when they're supposed to be stopping them with the fuel. Obviously not all cops, because they did do a raid at Coventry Road. But I've seen photos of them letting people with jerry cans through, because there's certainly going to be supporters. You're telling me all of society is divided on this, but not cops. They're all on the same page. Like, no, of course, it's going to be divided just the same way.
No, but dude, they're much more aligned with the right wing.
That's what I was going to say. Ever since Black Lives Matter, the right are like, defend our boys in blue, and the left are like, defund the police. Who do you think they're going to side with? You know?
Well, there's an active push to make the left the violent seeming
Antifa and all that
wing.
shit.
Yeah. Like it's bizarre. This is a right wing freedom from government protest, which is almost insane, because unless it's like libertarian who are like, we don't want government at all.
Yeah.
But like there is this push to like the occupations are like meant to instigate violence, so that they can be like, look, they're being violent to us. They're the oppressors. Well,
and unfortunately, people saw that these things can be somewhat achievable with January 6th in the States last year. The insurrection or whatever they called it. That
was a big mistake on their part, because I think in the States, the right wing is definitely trying to make Antifa and Black Lives Matter into like
cancel culture and all that.
Yeah, that's a violent gang and stuff. And they accidentally allowed their people to become a violent mob. And then you're like, well, you don't have a leg to stand on if you're saying other people are violent, because you guys literally attacked the government building and tried to like destroy it.
This is what I mean. Freedom, but at what cost, and how free? You're free to go and piss on the prime minister's doorstep? Like, is that how free we're supposed to be? Like,
and what comes of it afterwards? Like, if the conservatives get in, am I allowed to do that? Can I go throw dog shit at the prime minister's
people have been
house?
making jokes about, especially with the party nature of everything they've got going down there. Like, so next time my kid has a birthday party, I can just fucking close off the street and get like some fireworks and, just like, how many bylaws are you allowed to break before it's like, let's stop this guy? Or is it just about having enough people? Because I could organize a pretty sick party and have a punk show or something, and it's in some place we're not supposed to. Well, it's got a sweet view though, so we're just going to do it here. Are you going to stop us? Fuck you.
But you'd have to be kind of aligned with the people who are willing to not shut you down, right?
That's the thing.
So this is the craziest thing. If this does end in violence, you end up having like two wings of the same group, which would be like the anti-maskers and the police to some degree. I'm not generalizing. But they're like people that kind of politically align, and they're going to be fighting with guns, shooting each other. Meanwhile, their enemies, who are the left wing, are over here being like, what are you guys doing? Like, you're not fighting us, you're fighting yourselves. And they're probably crying the whole time. Like, the police will be like, I don't want to have to do this, and like shooting at the protesters because they're their best friends. And meanwhile, we're like, what are you doing? Like,
I think I would say, like, I don't always say I'm left or I'm liberal or anything, but I've always leaned more that way because it's generally been nonviolent, more empathetic, more people who aren't afraid to look inward and talk about feelings, God forbid, whereas I kind of align the other side with a lot of stubbornness, a lot of machismo, a lot of bravado, a lot of, rebellious just for the sake of being rebellious kind of shit, which is weird though, because I've thought about this and I'm like, I wonder how like teenage or maybe even 20s me would have felt about all this shit. I don't know for sure. I'd like to think I'd be on this side of it still, whatever side that is, but at the same time, I remember going to all the 420 protests and stuff, and part of it was because I loved weed, and I would still do that to this day if it wasn't legal. But I also remember part of the infectious nature of it being just like being part of this big counterculture movement and fighting against the man and all that shit. So I think...
Yeah, but there's also a giant aspect of that that's like, aren't we naughty? We're doing it.
It's taboo. It's off limits. It's
like dude, this trucker thing, like for one aspect of it, it's like civil disobedience is not wearing a mask in the store in Medicine Hat, Alberta, where you come from, and just being like, I don't wear masks. Kick me out. I don't care. It's not driving across the country to beg the guy that you don't even like think actually should be in charge. Beg him for like scraps.
I wouldn't even say beg. I would say demand. Really,
they're not demanding anything. They're begging the government to please let them like be free, right? And you're like, well, if you don't respect the authority of the government, why are you asking them for?
I agree with that.
Authority?
I was just going to say I still think they're demanding it in the sense that they're using intimidation tactics, and that could be seen as a demand rather than an actual inquiry or a request.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah, my take on that is like the saying like I'm not being violent. We're not violent. We're not violent. You know, it's peaceful. We're not violent. It's like you know who else isn't technically violent? A guy who's like, hit me, bro. Hit me.
Yeah.
Hit me.
Exactly.
You hit me first, and then I'll.
They're just looking for that entry point.
You're instigating violence. Like,
you're goading people.
Yeah. Well, why are death threats against the law? Because they're like an invitation.
Implication. Yeah.
Like you can say like I'm going to punch you in the face, and no one would go, well, he didn't technically do it, so it's not violent.
Nothing to worry about there. Yeah.
It's nuts, and it's this like. It's not well planned. It's this idea of like these people literally thought that they would come to and it would be over by now, and they'd get all the mandates cleared and stuff. And like you can't demand that the government dissolves the government. Okay?
Well,
they're not going to do that.
The scary part is that I think Alberta is where they actually are announcing that like they kind of are getting their way, and that they're just going to remove all the mask mandates and all that shit. Sure. And that sets a slippery slope right there. Again, I want masks to be gone too.
But I think honestly, generally the people of our country, the world, are like, yeah, I'm kind of over this.
Yeah, of course.
Like, deep down, I may not say it to everyone, but I'm over this. I don't want to do this anymore. It's not fun. I don't feel like I'm doing my part anymore. It turns out that Omicron got through and made people sick anyway. It's like, can we mitigate this quickly? And then you end up with these people coming in and being like, yeah, end the mandates. And you're like, well, the mandates they literally showed up in Ottawa on a Saturday, and on the Monday, everything was going to reopen at like 50% or whatever. But like, and everyone was like, yeah, it's fine. We'll just wait till Monday. And they were like, so they're piggybacking on the idea that things were going to open up anyway.
Yeah.
And then you look, and then they're like, look, we got freedom for you. Like, well, freedom is like allowing people to be who they are, right?
Yeah.
Like that's why I side. I think about it. That's why I side leftist. Okay, because the left allows people to exist. Like doesn't matter who you are, what you like, what box you tick, like as a person of color or a person of the LGBT community or anything. Like you're allowed to do that.
Yeah.
And the right wing, if they had its way, wouldn't allow the left to exist. Like conservatism is like, no, this is how things are.
Yeah.
And the
Fit
left
into this box.
The left is like, no. And the reason I believe in like the free, like the civil rights for everybody in whatever country you're in, Canada, for like everyone should be treated the same fundamentally, is because I cannot think of any reason why not.
Yeah.
Like no one's ever said like, well, here's the thing. There isn't one. Why shouldn't people be given the same free rights as a born human on Earth? And you're like,
within reason, like as long as you're not hurting anybody, or
yeah, of course, like within lawful, like within what we agreed to as a tribe of monkeys, like a fucking million years ago. We go, if you kill someone in here, that's bad. You're out of here. If you do what good, that's
going
good.
to monkey jail.
Yeah, it's
sorry to cut you off. I did want to ask the neighbor. He likes to saw things. Is that coming up on the mics too much, you think, or no? Because I can always, I have his phone number and I can always just slam on the wall, but I have a few things still to go over, and I don't know how long he's going to go.
Hear it in our headset, so.
I don't know if I'm hearing it through the headphones or just in the house, because it is pretty loud. Is he stopped now?
Generally, these mics we're using are pretty good.
It's supposed to cancel all their stuff out,
yeah. It's not too loud.
Normally, we've had insanely good luck, because he does saw shit a lot. He's a carpenter, and normally it's never overlapped with our podcast, miraculously somehow.
Well, if you need to, I can just overdub from my phone. I'll call in from my house. Yes, that's what I think.
Good point. Yeah. Man, well, you know, I feel like we've gotten into it. We've talked about it a bit. I would say that if there's somebody, I'm sure they're long gone at this point, but if there's somebody who is on the other side of this and you're still watching, I don't hate you. I'm not trying to start beef with people,
Not
but
at all.
you want freedom. Part of freedom is we're talking about our thoughts on this. And, if you want to use that as a reason to hate me, I guess I can't stop you. But I really wish all of that would decline a little bit. That, like, even if somebody is wildly not on the same side of something as you, again, unless they're being like a fucking blatant racist or hurting you, maybe don't write them off instantaneously that they're the worst person ever and they're not worth your fucking time and they're not a human being to you anymore just because you're being so polarized by these tribal divides we're in right now,
Yeah. Oh,
That's the main thing I would stress. So if I've offended you, I'm sorry, but also not sorry because, I have my right to an opinion, but I would hope that we can try, all of us, to move forward in a way where everyone listens to each other a little bit more. I don't know. Maybe that's a very vague point to be making, but I don't know.
Yeah, it's certainly very, very depressing the way that division is like pushed, almost like it's pushed to like prejudge people.
Well, this has all been proven, right? That social media is the algorithms are fed to sort of echo chamber people and get people just really rallying by the shit behind the shit that they already believe and not hearing.
Honestly, dude, I think you should, if you have a friend who is what you consider somewhat of a nut on your social media or something, keep them there.
Keep them on a tether.
Keep them visible until they cross some line that's like, okay, fuck this person.
Oh, I've done that a couple times.
Because when you block things, all you end up is with like people that agree with you and you agree and you go, yeah, aren't we the best? And you're like, but it's worse for you. Like you need outside stimulus to check yourself on where you are and as a person and what's happening.
And hear different opinions, yeah. Well, and I've noticed that's one thing I did want to say too, is that the world of celebrities, I feel like in the past, most celebrities, a lot of the time, unless they're known for being a shit disturber, they try to stay on everybody's good side. You want everyone to buy your CD or your movie or whatever the fuck, and most people are pretty good at that. But with this pandemic shit, maybe it's because a lot of them have been stuck at home like everybody else, but you do see big name celebrities really attaching themselves to one side or the other now. And I still follow some of them. Like I still follow Russell Brand because I used to think he was funny, or I do still think he's funny, and he's articulate and he's a curious guy, but he's totally like gone that route, support the truckers even. I'm pretty sure he did a thing about that recently, but anything, all the pandemic conspiracy stuff through the roof. And everybody knows Joe Rogan's under fire for a bunch of shit too, largely the COVID misinformation first. And that's weird. I was thinking about that the other day too, that like when I started this show, I listened to Joe Rogan fairly often, mainly because it was comedians and, scientists. There was a lot of variety. I enjoyed that. And I would say that I've still learned things about hosting from watching that show. But really ever since he switched to Spotify, I haven't been doing it. And I feel like that was the point where he started, I don't know, having, I wouldn't say an agenda necessarily, but
well, I think those things like force their own agenda, right? It's like it's the same as having an echo chamber. Like you like hits on a website. Like how many likes do you get? Like how many people's YouTube channels are just like driven? Like if you looked 3 years ago, they would have 7 different versions of videos that they made, and they're like, this one I'm dressed as a clown, and then it didn't get results. People didn't like it, so they go, okay, you guys really like when I do my funny reviews of stuff. So you become you're forced into this thing by responding to your own success, whether you like it or not.
Yeah.
And
you get kind of trapped, yeah.
And I mean, like Joe Rogan has to have results in terms of people listening to him. Yeah. So
and controversy gets people talking and interested.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. And it's sad because you end up going down a spiral, and at the end, like the end of that spiral is just like Joe Rogan would have only people who are anti-vax on his show to like reiterate a point, because they're like, we still need all this drama and stuff. And you're like, that's not helpful. Like that's probably not what he would intend for his show anyway. He probably wants to talk to someone else as well. But
so an interesting thing I read just recently about Rogan and this whole thing is that he likes to come off, as he did in his apology, as, I'm just a guy who likes to talk to people and have honest conversations and get different points of views. I'm no expert, and all this kind of stuff.
Curious stoner.
Yeah. But when you've got an audience the size of his, no conversation's just like shooting the shit with the guys anymore.
Yeah.
You have to recognize the impact you have on society.
Yeah.
And he just can't play like the innocent, we're just talking here, you know? And not anymore.
I mean,
Yeah.
you can't deny that in his mind he might still just be shooting the shit or whatever, and he has the right to say this is my show, I can do what I want.
He's a pretty savvy businessman at this point in his life, and he's got a lot of people around him too. So
what I've heard that people are trying to
innocence is gone.
People are trying to take him out. I heard though, because instantly after that, it didn't really stick, or you know, I'm sure it upset some people, but it was like a day or two later, this video surfaced, which was clips of him saying the N-word on apparently a lot of occasions, like, I don't know, a few dozen is what I heard. It was like 70 times or something.
Yeah, they took a lot of episodes off, like very quietly in the background. Spotify removed a ton of episodes.
He has a bit in one of his specials from back in the day where he says that a ton. And I've never heard anyone complain about it. Like
in his actual special, wow.
Yeah, and it's about like using the word not negatively, but in like the sense of like terms of camaraderie. Like, wouldn't it be nice to rap and say all the lines?
That's
like,
what he talked about in his apology. He said it was all contextual stuff.
Yeah, and to some degree it is, but at the same time,
it's messed up. Yeah,
there's a lot of people. There's a lot more people that don't have to apologize for that. You know.
Well, and the other part I haven't really looked into, but I heard that there was some joke he made about referring to black people in Planet of the Apes or something like along those lines.
Yeah, he's not. He's not.
How do you apologize for that? That's fucked up, man. Like,
yeah. No,
it's all fucked, but I don't know.
It's not, but what your dad said is true. It's like he's like the name of and the face of what's more like a business than anything. Yeah. It's like, imagine being in like the Dave Grohl and the Foo Fighters, and one day you're just like, I don't fucking want to do this for a year. I want to take a year off and go fishing.
Yeah.
There's like 50 people that their livelihood is Dave Grohl wanting to still be in a band. So
that's true.
You end up getting caught in these things. That being said, I think Joe Rogan really does want to talk about vax stuff because that's what he believes and that's what he wants to spread. So like he is doing that on purpose.
This is what I mean. The pandemic is where I saw a big turn in him.
Sure.
And now it sounds like we're trying to go into that divide or whatever, like this side and that. But that's really when, I felt like a lot of his interviews were always talking about that. I mean, to be fair, that's what's going on in the world, but I don't know, man.
Well, this is I think the word trauma is overused because everything's a trauma these days, but that's because I'm older and it was like, oh well, we just used to have shit happen to us and try to get over it. But like everyone's traumatized for this. We've been in 2 years of trauma.
Yeah, and
it is true. Like and everyone's mental health is suffering. It's not fun. No one is enjoying this. And everybody is like cracking up a bit. And you're seeing that. Like, it's wild how many people are just so clearly mentally unstable in your day-to-day life right now.
Yeah.
Where before it was like probably there, but it wasn't like these people didn't have a catalyst to make them go further off the deep end.
But it's even wilder that it's understandable that they're in that state. That's the really crazy part. It's like not just some crazy guy, it's some crazy guy with good reason to be crazy. And it's everybody, you know?
Yeah.
Man. Well, this has gotten pretty depressing with all this shit.
Let's talk about jokes.
Well, I want to talk about something funny, actually. I have some extra shit I printed out because, it's the Super Bowl tomorrow, or today. Today, yeah. So when we're recording this, the Super Bowl is today. Sorry, I'm not a sports guy. Sometime around this weekend, I knew.
I love golf.
When I put up the Kenny episode, I will say that, again, thank you to all the new subscribers, unless you've unsubscribed because you're the trucker people. I don't know, whatever. But
don't worry about that.
Yeah. So when I put that up, it was mainly positive. Like, same thing when I put up the Spenny one and I had a big influx of people. It was like 90% positive, supportive comments. But weirdly enough, the one thing that I got chirped on a few times was this nerdy room. And I just wanted to say, first of all, for the record, how weird, do you not know that, like, being into this shit, like comic books and Star Wars and all that, in the 90s or whatever, when I was actually a kid, that's when it was rough.
Yeah.
And I got through that, and I still like comics, and I still chose to decorate the room this way. So you honestly think after, like, the MCU has been dominating box offices for, like, a decade plus, and it's not lame to be into geeky shit anymore, that you're going to get at me with that? Like,
yeah, dude, that's great. Like, I'm the same way. I grew up being a comic nerd and stuff, and Street Fighter, everything. But it's like, yeah, Oh my God, what a nerd. He's got the most bankable comic character in the world.
I get that it's like a little bit like nerdism threw up in here. I think it was Jesse Reynolds or somebody who said that. It's very pop culture explosion. That's kind of what I was going for.
Yeah.
But
This doesn't happen by accident.
no. And it's been varied after a while. I've had, comics or whoever comes on the show put stuff up. So it's more of a melange of things now. But yeah, to think that you're going to, get at me under my ego about nerd shit. It's like, I was a nerd when it was not cool to be a nerd. And now it's like the golden age of nerdism,
Yeah, 100%.
So that being said, though, I wanted to do something comic book related because you're into comics as well, or you know a lot about it. And it is the Super Bowl. So I wanted to ask if you know about a character that Marvel put out, I think it was in the 90s, called SuperPro.
Yeah.
You do know NFL SuperPro?
Yeah. Not well, but I remember seeing it and being like, this is bizarre.
It's very weird. So it was like a comic they came up with mainly as like a merchandising thing.
Dude, that's the best thing about, before you get into it, the best thing about Marvel Comics back in the day was it was so like merchandised. Like they were just
capitalism, yeah.
Because do you remember the Hostess hand pies? Remember it would be a 1-page comic where Captain America like saves the world by eating a Hostess hand pie.
Yeah.
And I was like, fuck, I want a Hostess hand pie so bad because I don't think you get them in Canada.
They're like Twinkies or something, right? Kind of.
Yeah, they were like an apple pie in your hand.
Oh, okay.
And it was always like 1 page of it. And I always wanted one because I don't know if you remember this growing up, but like when I was a kid, we would get all the American ads for cereal. On Saturday mornings, but they were all cereals that you couldn't get in Canada, probably because they were horrible for you. But like Apple Jacks and like Cookie Crisp and stuff.
You can get the Cookie Crisp now.
I know you can get them now. Like they've brought.
Oh, they still have tons we don't have, I'm sure.
But yeah, definitely. Yeah. But back then they didn't have any of that. Like the worst thing for you could get was probably like Lucky Charms or something. But they had ones that were like all marshmallow.
Yeah, exactly.
And you're like, and it would be like, whoa, I always want to have those. So like, I've been to the States a couple times and just marveled at back in the day, marveled at the cereal aisle.
Oh, I brought stuff back.
Yeah, for sure.
That's what I did. I bought all those ones, Fruity Pebbles and all that shit.
And they, oh my God, I tried that and you're like, holy shit, this is not good for you. Like even as a kid, you'd be like, I can't eat this.
Yeah, but do they have ketchup chips?
Yeah.
Do they have coffee crisp?
They don't want them. That's the craziest thing.
Oh, ketchup chips are so good, though. Anyways, okay, SuperPro, NFL. My dad didn't seem to really know this character at all, okay? So I'm just going to read you a bit about his bio because it turns out that the supporting characters in the comic were also ridiculous. I got a lot of this off comic book resources, so hopefully not to plagiarize anything here, but this is yet another example of Marvel Comics partnering up with a big business to create a pretty lackluster superhero. This time they teamed up with the National Football League to make, what else? A promotional series about a pun-loving, crime-fighting ex-football player with superpowers. Written by Fabian, you remember how I'm supposed to say his last name? Nicieza? I can't remember. I looked it up, but Fabian Nicieza, NFL SuperPro debuted in 1991 and centered on a star football player turned reporter, Phil Grayfield. Grayfield just so happens to interview an oddball chemist and sports fan who just so happens to have invented a practically indestructible football uniform. For some reason, a group of thieves comes in, takes what they want, ties Grayfield to a chair, and decides to burn up the rest of the scientist's things, including the suit. The combination of the heat and the fumes from the chemist's supplies end up giving Grayfield superpowers, which he then uses to pummel bad guys. The series was reportedly worked on so that the writer could get free New York Jets tickets.
Nice.
So I thought that was just a funny intro. But now listen to some of these supporting characters.
Wait, hold on a second. So it's like a magic football uniform, which would have been like anyone could wear it and be super pro.
Also, an ex-football player turned reporter is a little bit of a stretch, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's a lot of backstory.
Well, I suppose, yeah. I don't know. Maybe I'm putting some stereotypes out there with that one,
but then the fire and fumes give him like the suit fumes gave him is like that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, I think he had maybe put the suit on and then the fumes during. I don't know. Yeah. That's all I had here. So again, I wish I had credited the guy who wrote that little blurb, but.
Can he take the suit off, or is he always super pro?
That's something I wanted to know, because someone like the Rhino, he's, I think, stuck in his suit. And they never explain how he takes a shit either.
Imagine he's going to his reporting job, and he has to put a suit over his giant shoulder pads. He's like, do. Like,
oh, what's his name?
Nothing to see here.
The Thing and Raphael always just did like the trench coat, and people apparently couldn't tell. It's like, oh, you got giant 3-toed rock feet.
Yeah.
But no, you're good.
Look at that normal guy whose face is made of stones. Yeah.
But he's got a hat though. So, so there's a character in this too called the Almighty Dollar.
Nice.
J. Pennington Pennypacker. So that's his real name.
Yeah. That's my friend's name too. Very common name.
Like, if your last name's Pennypacker, how are we expected to believe your middle name is Pennington?
Yeah.
Or your parents were dicks, I guess. An average certified public accountant until he attended Can't Run Amok self-esteem camp. This is already hilarious and ridiculous. The camp was actually a front for a crazed scientist who invented a device that gave anyone it was used on superpowers. Nice little easy plot device there. After the device was used on Pennypacker, it apparently gave him the ability to throw money at his problems.
Sick.
Pennypacker used his newfound abilities to help his fellow campers and NFL superhero SuperPro defeat their captors. Their group of happy campers became a team called the Happy Campers.
Wait, is he a good guy or bad? Is the Almighty Dollar?
He's a good guy.
He's a good guy.
So,
but he got it at an evil camp.
I think he went to a self-esteem camp that was secretly run by an evil scientist, but they didn't know that wasn't in the pamphlet.
Okay.
So they all break out with their new powers and they become the Happy Campers, which I thought was a terrible name for a team. But his powers,
Look out! It's the Happy Campers. I think we'll be fine.
They brought food actually. Mm-hmm. They have lots of patches and. Pennypacker could shoot torrents of pennies from his wrists. That was his only power.
Of course.
I don't know where they materialize from or where he just makes them, I guess.
Yeah, that's not for you to know.
Well, and pennies are discontinued now too, so that would extra suck.
That's why, because that's
where he got his supply.
The value plummeted because he was just shooting pennies everywhere. Like, these are worthless, man.
Oh, I was going the other way, that he stocked up on pennies because like everyone was giving them away, and he was like,
it's an American comic. They still have pennies.
Well, this was back in the day too, but yeah, you're right. They didn't get rid of them down there. I forgot about that.
Yeah, you're right. This comic does work. Now that you mention it.
I'm just thinking about the local bank and going, what's with all these fucking pennies being turned in?
Yeah, exactly.
Imagine rolling them all up, too. We're not accepting that bag of loose pennies.
I will say, we're making fun of this guy, but if he shot a penny in your eye, like, you're done for, I would say.
Yeah. You remember when you used to flick bottle caps? And
I could never do it.
Oh, really?
No, I never learned.
I definitely had a friend or two get one in the eye. And realized,
definitely couldn't do it while blowing a bubble.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, another happy camper. His name is Girth. AKA Tubby Walsh. That's his
I was worried you're going the porn route there, but
no, even better. So he attended a program. He's a clerk who attended the same program to awaken the inner superhero. So I guess he was letting them know a little bit. The camp was actually a front. We knew that. His powers and abilities, he could control his large stomach, which also seemed to be imbued with superhuman strength.
Nice.
So he literally has like a beer belly, like Budweiser gut, and he can slap people around with it.
Yeah, well, that's a great thing to have.
Finally, the most racist of the group, Calculator, Kwang Day.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Was a mild-mannered actuary who attended a program, yada, yada, yada. He claims he instantly can assess all probabilities and variables, thus guaranteeing an optimum outcome. Good power.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Did they have to make him Korean, though? I don't know.
No.
Seems kind of fucked up.
Well, this was the 90s, right? When
racism was okay? No.
No, it wasn't okay, but it was like...
Well, we laugh about that, but it was... like blatantly accepted a lot more, people call you out on your shit. Thankfully now when that kind of happens.
Yeah, definitely. More. I mean, that's good. Because in a way, not to get political again, but it's like a lot of people, the conservative wing tends to be like, we need to go back to the way things were back when people who had it bad just shut the fuck up and didn't bug us. And you're like, well,
and things were easy for me. And
exactly.
Yeah, it's. That's kind of where I'm at. I get it if you're a white dude that you're sick of hearing about your privilege and all that, but it's like you can't deny the fact that the system has been rigged for us for so fucking long. And even though there's being attention drawn to it, maybe you don't like that attention, maybe you feel things are changing. If you could try to accept that things are changing because you're dealing with maybe more difficulties in your life, but those are difficulties that a lot of other people have been dealing with forever, for generations.
Yeah.
And the tides are just balancing out a little bit, and sometimes for balance to happen, things need to go extreme the other way a bit, and then it levels out, like and my life's not bad as a white dude still, other than I guess apparently it's hard to be a white guy, but I'm not finding that, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, of course.
Everyone should, like you were saying about just every person should be given the same fucking rights and freedom. But anyways, I don't know where I'm going with this, but fuck, man.
Except for that evil scientist at camp run amok. Yeah. Dude, one of my favorite things, so I was telling you and your dad, I listened to Rob Liefeld's podcast, Robservations, which is like a lot of history of comics and stuff, and he goes deep into stuff. But there's like Magneto, this is the best thing. He's seriously talking about this like Magneto and his like evilness and stuff. He called his group the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants. Like
a little too on the nose.
Yeah, come on, man. Like at least give them some leeway in case they want to like take you. If you take over the world calling yourself the Evil Party, like I don't think like okay.
It's not very subtle, yeah.
Yeah.
It's like Dr. Evil from Austin Powers,
But that wasn't like in the 60s, they just made the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants because it was like, we got to polarize these guys. This guy's bad and these guys are good and stuff.
I would wonder if that moniker was thrown upon them and then maybe they just adopted it because Magneto hated humans so much. But I don't know. I'd have to go back and read those super old issues.
Maybe they were good until they found out they were called evil and they're like, oh, I don't want to lose this job.
I just like to picture the brainstorming meeting with like a whiteboard where they're just trying to come up with names and they land on that.
Yeah, Brotherhood. I like that. Very much, very unified. And
I like that, Quicksilver. Good.
We're all mutants. What do you think about that? Yeah, I mean, it's weird to call ourselves that because we think we're just like a different type. We're not mutants, but how about if we're evil as well?
We might get what we want. Yeah. I don't know. I think they knew they were bastards, though.
Yeah.
I read the, I think it was like the first 30 or something issues of X-Men back in the day, and it's definitely different from new comics.
It wasn't very popular. It was not a popular
At the time,
comic.
you mean?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
People didn't really like it. And only when the new ones came out, when like Wolverine and...
Well, it got canceled, yeah. After about 5 or 7 years, I want to say. It was canceled in 1970 and didn't reboot with Wolverine and that crew until 75.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is cool, because they went like totally... international.
Yeah.
I think there was, I think if they had an American, it was, I think Cyclops was still
Cyclops was the one from the original team, and they all got captured somewhere, and he made it out, so he went back to Professor X, and Professor X like, I got a backup crew. I never told you.
Yeah. And they're from all over the world.
Yeah.
Except I think there was a Native American
Thunderbird. But he died in like the second mission. Like
really?
He died, yeah, the second episode. He sacrificed himself for the team though.
Yeah.
Some plane exploded or something, and he blew himself up, taking down the bad guy.
Yeah. And
so,
then the
noble,
and then the other one, like is it Sunspot or Sunfire?
Sunfire was from Japan.
The Japanese one.
I'm sorry to anyone if I've talked about this on the podcast before, because I can only imagine if you're not into comics and you've heard me talk about this before.
Yeah.
But it was progressive at the time for sure. Banshee was from Ireland, which is still kind of a white guy, but Nightcrawler was from Germany and Storm was from Africa.
Yeah, at least they were trying something different. Because look at NFL SuperPro. That's like... His name's Johnny America, and he...
Well, and with girth, it's like, if you're a fat fuck who just watches football, you could be on his team. You could be one of the happy campers.
His superpower is eating nachos. Okay.
The fact that shit got published is hilarious, but I guess the guy really wanted those free tickets. You know, what are you going to do?
Yeah, I remember that, because like, I think that lasted about 5 minutes.
Yeah, and maybe 5 issues or something, probably.
Yeah, but yeah, that's funny. Like, the Marvel would do that all the time.
About these weird... merchandising things.
Well, one thing I learned is that Marvel was basically saved by Star Wars back in the day.
Really?
Star Wars did not have, when it first came out, it was not expected to be obviously the hit it was.
Yeah.
And it was like a monster hit beyond all comparison. But they didn't have any merch or anything. They didn't have toys. They didn't have anything for like a year because they were like, let's fire it up and get toys. It takes a long time.
Well, you're not going to pre-make like that amount of toys for a movie that you don't even know is going to be well received.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So they had a licensing agreement with Marvel, and Marvel printed like all these ongoing stories of, and apparently they were just like, Luke cannot meet Darth Vader in this comic. You guys can write whatever you want, but that cannot happen. So there's this like whole series, and people were like, yay, the further adventures of Star Wars. And they sold so many of them that it basically made Marvel a like a successful company again. Like they were they were pretty bottomed out. Yeah.
Because I was going to say I had heard that they were in a bankruptcy kind of state in like the late 90s. I remember that being a thing where Marvel was like optioning off all their characters to a variety of studios, which would later come bite them in the ass when they had the MCU with Disney and they're like, okay, we want those characters back. And then Universal's like, no, if you're going to make it, we're going to be involved for the Hulk movie, or like Sony, of course, with that ongoing stuff.
Yeah.
I really wish, that's one thing I wish Marvel had never done. If the MCU could have just been from the beginning, they have access to everybody and they didn't have to tiptoe around the X-Men while they continued to put out these rather shitty Fox X-Men movies.
Yeah.
At least in my opinion, I didn't really enjoy them.
Oh, really?
No, not really. Being a huge X-Men fan, just they veered so far from the stories.
My favorite one is the third one.
I actually like that original trilogy. Yeah, probably more than the ones that came out after the.
I haven't even seen all those.
First Class.
The first two, like X-Men 2, is really great. The X-Men, I loved X-Men. I saw it in the theater.
Same here. Yeah. The first one's pretty good. The second one's really good.
Yeah. The third one's
okay.
It sucks.
A lot of people hate it. I don't hate it as much as I love Frasier as Beast.
Yeah.
Like there were moments that I could pick out as like, oh, that was kind of cool.
Dude, I saw X-Men Days of Future Past in 3D. I don't like 3D movies. I like going to plain old movies because I'm like, I don't care. I don't want to wear things. I don't need to see it jump out. And it's in 3D, and like that movie is almost all just guys having conversations about what it means to be a mutant. And I remember watching this courtroom scene where it's like, well, it really looks like that guy's sitting behind that other guy in court.
like what a lack of usage for the technology. Yeah. Well, that was probably all for that Quicksilver scene where he's like running around in slow motion or whatever.
Yeah. Oh yeah, there's great stuff in there, but it was like,
I'm with you though. It sucks to wear the glasses, man, because if you get like one scratched lens and you don't realize till the movie's starting and you go to put them on, I hate shit like that. It's like having a floater in your eye.
I enjoyed Doctor Strange in 3D because it was like, you're going to watch a kaleidoscope for like 10 minutes in the middle of the movie. And it was like, hey, that's pretty
Not
cool.
included shrooms.
Yeah.
But,
exactly.
That could be interesting.
Yeah.
The next one should be pretty cool. The Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness.
Yeah, I hope so. I'm going to go check it out for sure. I just saw Spider-Man whatever, a month ago. Yeah, it was great. It had... For me, it had a couple too many nods to like the winks and nods where like remember the original X-Men where they're like, what did you expect? Yellow spandex.
Yeah.
And everyone like I remember seeing it
break
in the
theater.
Fourth
wall a little bit.
Yeah, but I remember seeing it in the theater and like the nerds watching it were laughing. And you're like, that was in the fucking trailer, dude. You can't be laughing at it in the theater. You've already heard it 16 times.
Yeah.
Like you're not in on the secret joke. But I felt like Spider-Man like had so many every character was like, well, I'm something of a scientist myself, Peter. And you're like, oh, it's that line that a character in reality would never remember saying to somebody.
Yeah, it's not
20
like his
years ago.
catchphrase or something. Yeah.
It's ridiculous. And I get it. Like, it's a nod to like the whole history of comics and stuff.
Well, and I would say, and the multiverse within the MCU itself. Like, there are these overlaps of characters and from different realities, but they're all still sort of versions of the same person.
Yeah. Oh, I love the way they did it and I loved like my Spider-Man is Tobey Maguire just because the timing. Like I was like 20 and he was the first one really, other than the Electric Company.
You say that. I would not agree at all.
Really? Are you more of a modern guy?
I would say Tom Holland just because I think he's been the best Spider-Man. I think the only thing that, in my opinion, sort of hampers Tom Holland Spider-Man, and I've learned to love it in its own way, is I'm very excited for the next trilogy that they say they're making with him because the first trilogy was too Iron Man's my babysitter.
Yeah.
And like that did bug me a bit, but I recognize that like when they started making these flicks, that's where the Marvel Universe was sort of at with the other larger picture of the Avengers, and it helped tie Spider-Man into the Avengers and yada, yada. But I'm very excited at the end of the newest one, how they set him up to be like this broke fuck in an apartment, and he's older, and he doesn't know anybody pretty much now, and that's kind of the Spider-Man I remember when I was a kid. Like, he worked at the Daily Bugle, he was dating Mary Jane eventually, but like...
Which is crazy, because they had to go full on, to have him in the MCU, they had to spend 3 movies to bring him back to like... Spider-Man.
Neutral point.
Yeah.
Well, no, 3 trilogies really, because they did the same fucking origin kind of young Peter thing, which is understandable. You want an actor to be able to age into the role and make these movies for as long as possible, but it still felt a little tired, and that's why they skipped the whole Uncle Ben death with Tom Holland, because they were like, fuck that. We don't need to see that shit again.
Dude, I did not really enjoy the Andrew Garfield ones much at all. Especially the second one.
The first one was all right. Yeah.
The first one, it has like, there's a reporter who's like, oh no, the lizard's heading uptown. And you're like, okay, you don't have to like literally tell us what's happening in the movie. And like, now the lizard looks angry at Spider-Man. You're like, shut the fuck up. I can see what's happening.
Yeah.
And the second one was ridiculous.
The second one was pretty bad. Yeah.
But they,
although the second one was the most comic accurate suit for Spider-Man they've ever had on film.
Sure.
For whatever that's worth.
Yeah, not much.
If you're a nerd, I don't know. I appreciated that.
But they had that underlying plot that it was like his parents were killed in an airplane and they were spies or something.
Yeah, which is true to the comics.
Yeah, but it's also like, can we pay that off? Like, I would love to read a synopsis of what the third movie was going to be just to find out what that story was. Because by not making it, you're like, okay, I guess that wasn't
it becomes
important.
irrelevant. Yeah, you're right, since it got discontinued or whatever.
Yeah, like if a script leaked about that, I'd read it for sure. I'd be like, oh, that's what happened.
I can tell you what I know from the comics is that his parents, I don't know if it was like retconned later, but Peter Parker's parents ended up being like, or they were rather, like SHIELD agents. And they died in a mission, or they weren't actually dead. I think that's what it was. They came back, but who knows? They were probably clones or something from the Jackal. I don't know, man. Comics have been around for so long. These characters have been around so long. If you can throw a dart and that shit's probably happened in some issue, whatever it lands on, you know what I mean?
Oh, for sure.
Because fuck, man, like, what are they going to do? People get pissed off at that. Oh, they're rebooting things again. Oh, number one again. It's like, yeah, that's because it's got to be, you got to get those new readers. It's got to be somebody's number one. And the old fogies who have been into comics for decades, like, you've seen everything happen to this character. Don't you kind of want them to recycle it at some point to just have a new spin on that, you know?
Yeah.
And they're still churning out Spider-Man like crazy. Like, I get Amazing Spider-Man, right? And I get comics delivered every 2 weeks. And there's always 2 new issues every week. There's a new issue of Amazing Spider-Man, and then there's all the other Spider titles.
It's a weekly, eh?
Yeah, it's a weekly, and you don't get that a lot anymore.
No.
Like a lot of comics are like once a month, sometimes even longer. You know, but
These aren't different Spider-Man titles, though?
no, this is Amazing Spider-Man.
Oh, sorry, yeah, you said that.
Every friggin' week, and it's going like they're coming in so quick, I can't keep up with them. You know,
Yeah.
and that's Spider-Man. He's just such a moneymaker for these guys. It's huge.
Right now.
Yeah.
Oh, that's what we were talking about. I can't remember if that was before the podcast or not, but we were talking about
NFL SuperPro.
well, collecting cards, though. We were talking about
Yeah.
trading cards and shit like that. And it's something that I started dabbling in a few years ago because I collected cards when I was a kid, like Marvel cards and stuff like that. Not really sports cards for me, but I had fond memories of that. And I kind of thought it just like died out or that I certainly didn't realize what it had become, which was that in more recent years, maybe the 2010s, I don't know exactly, but they started offering things in cards that weren't really a thing when we collect, or I don't know if you collected cards, but
To some degree, yeah.
yeah, like they didn't have autographs that you could pull. They didn't have artist sketch cards that are one of one. Like they have all these really
No,
cool.
they had a piece of really hard, will cut your mouth gum in them.
Oh, you're going that far back.
Yeah.
I was going to
Well,
say they had
that was-
holograms or something. They'd have like a chase set that you're trying to track down. It's harder to pull these cards. But now they have legitimate cards where it's turned into like a gambling aspect.
It's 100% gambling.
You can spend, 300, 1,000, depending on, there's all these different tiers for products, depending on how much you want to spend. And usually the risk reward is kind of equivalent to that. So if you buy a $1,000 box of hockey cards these days, you could pull a card that's worth like 50 grand. It's fucking bananas. But anyways, what I didn't realize was that they were doing this for Marvel stuff now. So you can get sketch cards or like, an autograph of a famous, the people who play them in the MCU, they do that as well. So Robert Downey Jr.'s autograph or whatever. So a few years ago, before the pandemic, I had a birthday coming up, and I saw that a lot of the stores locally had trading card packs that were more modern than what I was used to, and they were kind of sitting there for a long time. Like, oh, I've seen these here for like a couple years. So I started kind of going like, oh, wouldn't it be fun on my birthday to just open a bunch of trading cards just for fucking nostalgia and shits and giggles and whatever. So I'd pick one up here or there, and in most instances, because they had been sitting there so long, I would haggle and be like, hey, I got some old action figures, or I traded for a lot of it. I bartered and got store credit and stuff. So I opened them, and long-winded story is that after the pandemic or during the pandemic, the industry for collectibles has boomed, and I revisited a lot of these cards I had pulled that I thought were like maybe okay. And like I was telling you, I sold a Spider-Man card for $500 the other day, and this is something that when I pulled it even was definitely not worth anywhere near there. It's bananas how fucking popular this is now.
Oh my God, dude. Yeah, that stuff is just skyrocketing. And like what I said to your dad, and I think you were in the room too, is like, I think it could be like being used as a form of money laundering, because like you clean money by buying. You're like a lot of it's done online through like online auctions and stuff. Like this comic behind me, you could sell that to someone who would use that capital to like wash their money or whatever they're getting. Like
interesting.
Because. And a lot of people are not trusting banks. Like you have Bitcoin and these kind of things, like blockchain stuff.
So you're saying buying them as assets instead of having to have like cash. It's like, oh, I just have this really expensive comic book collection.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Well, not even collection. You can buy a copy of.
Just like
of Spider-Man 1.
Yeah, some crazy expensive.
Hold on to it and dump it later. It's like flipping a house. You flip a comic because the market is like just like skyrocketing so much because so many people are buying into it. What's the reason? Maybe it's a way to clean money. I don't know. I can't all be on the up and up, but whatever it is, people are collecting comics and things like that and cards.
Oh, I think
in lieu of collecting like art or.
Yeah, I think it's also largely the pandemic got a lot of people stuck at home looking through their old shit and then finding their cards.
A lot more disposable income because you're not going anywhere. You're just working. You can have things.
If you're lucky to be still working, because obviously some people are, have not been in that position. People's business is closing down, which is why there is two sides to this. And I do agree, not to get political again, but. Yeah. Anyways, it's been really kind of a fun experiment, just buying some here and there, and I'm obviously happy that all that stuff appreciated. But the one thing I did get when I bought them originally, maybe this was the previous birthday, maybe that's how I got the bug or whatever. But there was these new X-Men cards coming out. I'm a huge fan, and it was the first time I had seen like a really premium product where I'm like, oh, it's $300 for this box with like 10 packs in it.
Wow.
But you're trying to get these hit cards that are then worth like a couple grand or whatever.
Yeah.
And I pulled.
You know what else they do with that? They're called scratch tickets, and you can buy them at the convenience store.
I've been known to buy those from time to time. Yeah, but this is also mixed with nostalgia and Marvel stuff. And, it's scratches an itch in another way, too, where like even if I didn't pull some super expensive card, it was still fun. I don't know that I would do it regularly. Because I think if you do it regularly, you got to be flipping some of these cards to get money for the next box and whatever. But nevertheless, the first box I bought, I got like the luckiest shit ever. It was full of all these crazy expensive things when I think you're only usually supposed to get one or two. But it was like I got a God box. It was just like, what? Cheat code.
Nice.
And the main thing I got was this one out of 25 in the world, this redemption that I sent away for an autographed lithograph by Greg Hildebrandt of the X-Men. And, he's a famous artist. He's done work on some of the old Star Wars posters in the 70s. And him and his brother, Tim, who's passed away now, they were kind of like a duo. They did a lot of the old Marvel Masterpieces cards and stuff. So,
right on. Cool.
Yeah, I don't know where I'm going with this other than that was
crazy.
Really cool. Yeah, I'll show you it after it's on the wall there. But
yeah. A 25 in the world.
Yeah, mine is 8 out of 25. I think I've never looked into how much I could sell it for. I don't really want to because it was just such a cool experience. But maybe I'll check in like 10, 20 years and maybe I'll sell it if I want to get a cottage or something.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
I mean, as dark as it is to say, when the artist dies, that's usually when things will spike. I don't know morally how different people feel about cashing in on that, but
they're not signing anything else. And they're not creating anything else. So yeah, it is a market. And the other one would be like a tie-in. Like if another X-Men movie comes out, that's a good time to sell.
That's huge in comic buying right now. Like if Marvel announces, oh, we're going to be doing a show in 2 years, but it's this character, all the books go up. First appearance, notable
I got some
storylines.
I got some shitty old Moon Knight comics from the 90s that must be worth more than the $1 they were worth a year ago.
Probably, yeah. Yeah, because even the stuff that's not worth much is still probably worth a bit more than it was.
Yeah. I read some of the the Moon Knight show that's out or was coming out.
It's coming out, yeah.
I read some of the comic that's based on, and it's probably going to be really good.
Yeah, he's got like split personalities. And
like a bunch of them too, for sure. Yeah, that one was written by Jeff Lemire. Who do you know him at all? He
doesn't sound familiar, but
he's Canadian. He's from Toronto, or he lives in Toronto. He did Sweet Tooth, which is also
that's on Netflix now. Yeah, I haven't seen it.
Great comic.
Looks cool.
He's got a comic called Black Hammer, which is kind of his like version of like the superheroes like Justice League and stuff like that. Amazing. One of my favorite writers. Check him out.
I've got a bunch of those Black Hammers.
They're great.
I bought them for my other son, and there's some new ones just coming out now. I'm just getting. So,
yeah. He's like one of the best right now, and he's writing for everyone. He writes like on DC, on Marvel Comics. He's great.
I got really into this guy when I went to the cottage, we took some books out from the library, and they've actually got a lot of good graphic novels at the library.
Yeah, that's where I get my stuff for sure.
Yeah, why not, right? And you never want to buy that, and then you're going to read it like in 5 years, maybe again, once.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not worth it. Unless you just want to support the industry, I suppose. But yeah, I really got into this guy named Ed Piskor, who's he's got these I don't know what you would call it. It's like a condensed version. Like the ones I read were X-Men. I don't know if you could tell I like the X-Men, but yeah, it was called X-Men Grand Design, and it was these 2 books that were oversized as well. They're like these big, they're fun to hold, and the artwork is kind of a throwback. Like the way they print it and the colorization looks very like old 60s, but the artwork is great. And it's like sort of Cole's notes, if you will. Like he kind of covers all the major storylines that happened with these characters without you having to read all that. Which was fine. It's not like I was trying to get a shortcut. Most of these stories I already knew, but for whatever reason, it was really nice to have it all together. And I don't know, you just kind of got to read it before you'll get what I'm talking about.
Yeah, no, I was just talking to my wife about that. I was explaining between comic, like I collected comics in the 90s when I was like in the early 90s, excuse me. And I read them. And I've always been like a story guy, whereas like listening to Rob Liefeld's podcast, he's an artist. He's all about the art. He's like, this is beautiful lines. And I'm like, I couldn't care less about inking in a comic, really. And in the 2000s, I would just read like Wikipedia entries, like what's Venom been up to?
Yeah,
and I would read it. And I didn't feel like I was missing anything by not reading the things. But even back then, it was good enough. I'm like, holy shit, Venom became anti-Venom? This is crazy stuff.
Yeah, or Flash Thompson, Agent Venom.
Yeah, and I've read some of those subsequently, but I was like, whoa, that's nuts. I love that. But they used to have Marvel Age, which was kind of like almost like little encyclopedia, and it would do the same thing. It would like have a drawing of a character.
I have some of those books.
Yeah. And I had a bunch of them. I remember reading them because it was like reading an encyclopedia of characters and like, whoa, that guy's that strong. He can lift up 2 trucks. Whoa,
yeah,
that's cool.
How many tons? And all
I
I
just loved it. Like I didn't need necessarily the whole comic adventure and dialogue. It was just like, this guy once fought Dr. Doom and he punched him into space. And you're like, whoa, that's crazy.
That's very interesting you say that. I would say I'm very much the same. I've probably talked about this before, but yeah, I grew up mainly like hearing about these characters from my brother who actually read the comics.
Yeah.
And I had the trading cards and I watched the cartoons, and there weren't really movies back then. But I didn't do a lot of actual comic book reading. I changed that as I got older. I started getting into graphic novels and stuff. But yeah, it's weird how it's got like a folklore aspect to it that you don't really, it can be passed by word of mouth and it's still like pretty rad.
I think like I think Marvel Comics is kind of on par with like the Beatles in terms of like they've like Beatles songs are not songs anymore. There's Beatles songs that are like carols. Like Yellow Submarine isn't.
It feels like it's public domain.
Almost. Yeah, it's a thing where you sing it to a 2-year-old.
And the Octopus's Garden.
Yeah, not as much that one. But yeah.
I was trying to think of another Ringo song. Aren't those both Ringo songs?
Yeah. No, they're great for sure. But like Yellow Submarine surpassed that, and so did like I Wanna Hold Your Hand. Like they're not songs anymore. They're worldwide entities, and Marvel is that too. Like Spider-Man is a character for the ages. It's like a teen who's down on his luck and everyone likes him. Everyone
like
likes
Robin Hood or something.
Yeah,
or like
exactly.
One of these,
like they're like myths basically instead of created characters.
Yeah.
And DC to some degree, they have Batman. And other than that,
yes. This is exact. No, he knows. He's just saying other than Batman. Yeah, my dad's a major DC guy.
Really?
And my brother too. Yeah. I don't really get it, to be honest. Like, I just think DC is way campy. It's like they haven't like evolved with the times in the same way. I'm not saying they won't do like a progressive storyline or this character's gay now or whatever. Like obviously they're all trying to do that stuff and appeal to the masses, which is great. But then they don't change like the terrible costume or like the really just stupid character.
I just don't have the same intrigue in it. Like Hawkman, it's like he's got the mask of a hawk, and I'm like, I don't care. I never cared about that. And
I will say I shouldn't talk down about DC after just doing a whole thing about SuperPro, which was Marvel. So they all have their stinkers.
They have their problems for sure. I just think I always found DC less appealing to me. It was for some reason.
Yeah, same here.
The villains, the good guys, they didn't ring true to me. And
someone said, I think it was Kevin Smith, that Batman is the best Marvel character in the DC universe. That like you could take him out and bring him to Marvel and he would fit in perfectly. Maybe not all of his villains. Some of them are pretty lame.
Well, yeah. I mean,
the Mad Hatter. Come on.
Yeah, there was a lot of
The
those.
ventriloquist. He's an old guy with a fucking dummy with a baby Tommy gun. Why is that intimidating when you're Batman?
Oh my, yeah, but I mean, they all have those. Like the original Spider-Man,
Yeah, some of his were bad.
like the Tinkerer. What does he do? He makes little robots. And you're like, okay, that's not that good. But
We read one. I read some old ones to my son, and there was the Living Brain, and it's basically this giant supercomputer that would not even be like as good as like an Apple from the 80s, because this was like in the 60s,
Yeah.
and computers weren't really a thing.
For sure, yeah. But the whole run of Spectacular Spider-Man was like to have like offshoot one-off, like Boomerang, the Australian guy who throws. You're like, I don't care. Like, these are stupid.
Well, yeah, but DC has Captain Boomerang.
Yeah.
Marvel has Boomerang.
Okay. Here's one issue with DC. They have Mr. Freeze, who is a Batman villain who freezes people, and then there's a Flash, Captain Cold, and they're the same guy. Like their Legos are like almost the exact same thing, and you're like, what? Like, did they not know they were ripping themselves off with this thing?
They're very similar. I wonder if Marvel has that though. They've got Iceman. That's about it. I don't know any. There's probably other ice characters though. I think like
you're
bound to get that shit.
But to have two characters that are so clearly the same and not to acknowledge it and be like, no, that's Captain Cold. And you're like, okay, yeah, great.
I'm sure their personalities are probably different. I don't know. Because Mr. Freeze is like this tortured guy because his wife is on ice or whatever, right? From what I remember from the cartoon and all that. Whereas Captain Cold, I don't really know much about him. He's kind of like a...
I think he was in the
my dad will know.
military.
I know his name is Leonard Snart.
Leonard Snart. Yeah. He's
Terrible name.
He's just a guy like so many of these guys. No real superpowers or anything, but he's just got a scientific background or something. Invented a cold
That's
gun.
like Mr. Freeze still. Though.
Yeah, but Mr. Freeze has got a physiological condition, right? Where his body has to be kept ultra cold.
He has like a containment suit.
Yeah, he has to wear a containment suit. And that was always, Batman was always cracking it with a batarang or something. It'd be, oh no, that's all I have to do is put a hole in his suit. He's in trouble.
I probably should have thought about this.
Yeah.
From the last time I fought Batman, and he did this.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, Batman, I think he has a cool. We've been talking. Anyone who's not into comics is going to be so far gone. So Batman, I was going to say he's kind of got like really cool villains and really lame villains.
Yeah.
It's like for everyone, there's one on the other side. He's got the Penguin, super lame, in my opinion.
You think so?
Yeah. If you're going to name yourself and your whole motif's going to be a fucking animal and you want to be intimidating, you're going with Penguin. Really? I'm not saying Danny DeVito wasn't terrifying in that movie, because that's a whole other thing. I was very afraid of him as a kid, but that's because he had weird ass fucking penguin hands and all that,
definitely.
But and he ate fish, and that was too real. But I do think Penguin is lame. I think
I thought it was a great character in Gotham, which I haven't finished yet. I
never watched that.
Oh, it's good.
They're all younger and stuff.
Yeah, it's good, man. It was a good show for a comic show. Really.
Yeah, it was good. Yeah. You know what? But you know why I collect DC instead of Marvel? And this just put a whole other side of it.
Because you're a total rebel?
Yeah, that's it. No. When I was a kid, I think I started with DC. It's like so many other things, like what you start with. Right? But I collected a lot of Marvel when I was younger. And I enjoyed them all. Like every other boy, I identified with Peter Parker. I was Peter Parker, except I didn't have the powers, right? All that kind of stuff. But when I started back into collecting, like we were talking, Tavis, before, say 35 years ago, I got back into it. Mm-hmm. I only had so much money.
Yeah.
And I started back by discovering some DC comics that they started out with issue ones again, which I didn't know was a thing. And I just got back into it. And I do still collect a few Marvels, but I had to figure out where I was going to put my money. And there's so many crossovers, and there's so much. If you want to enjoy a comic in either universe, you really kind of have to collect some of the other characters because there's so many references and crossovers in that. So I just decided.
I hate when they do that, to be honest.
Yeah, but it continues to this day, right? It's part of the whole thing. So I just went more DC so I can get. Plus, I always loved Legion of Superheroes. I always thought that was one of my favorite comics.
Just like the lamest.
No, yeah.
I just like seeing the future. I like being 1,000 years exactly to the day.
I just think it's dumb they all have a ring that lets them fly. So everyone on the team can fly.
That's because you got a guy like Brainiac who invented it, you know? So
I guess.
In 1,000 years, if we don't all have rings that make us fly, I'm going to be pretty pissed.
There's a lot of stupid-ass characters in the Legion of Superheroes, though, but I think that was tongue-in-cheek, done on purpose.
Matter Eater lad, right? Didn't he just come up in Peacemaker? Oh, you guys haven't watched
haven't
it. A
seen
couple
it,
of
no.
lamos.
Eventually, for sure.
Yeah, I guess I was turned off by all those terrible DC movies in recent years. But
Yeah, man. Yeah. They've dropped the ball with that, for sure. Their TV is good.
Suicide Squad from James Gunn.
They're animated is
But that's
good.
because they went and got a guy who was putting out good Marvel movies. And they're like, hey,
Yeah.
Marvel fired you temporarily for some tweet from 10 years ago. You want to come over here for a bit?
Yeah, exactly.
And then Marvel still took him back because that's how fucking good he is at making movies.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't know. Okay, well, we're getting close to the end here, but I did want to ask you this one. I was recently listening to You Made It Weird, Pete Holmes' podcast, and he was interviewing Martin Starr, and I just thought this was a fun set of questions. He asked him, not to steal his shit, but he asked if you had ever had a near-death experience, seen a UFO, or seen a ghost. Any of those, whatever you think's the most interesting.
Give you a short answer?
Did you see unless you saw an alien's ghost,
Whoa, that'd be crazy.
that would be probably the best you could get here
Yeah.
while having a near-death experience.
Yeah, I died and saw a vision of an alien's ghost.
No, but any of those, like you have some crazy story that would pertain to?
Number one, ghosts don't exist. Number two, aliens may exist, but they probably are not anywhere near us, or they're octopuses.
Well, UFO, right? So just an unidentified flying object that you may have seen in your life. That's where I was going with it. Just inexplicable.
I one time saw like a green meteor or something that like I was like, whoa, if I ever saw something, that was probably it. But I was also drunk and I was like 14.
And it could have just been a meteor, I guess.
And that's
Yeah.
what it was. But no, I don't believe that aliens are visiting or UFOs or anything, unfortunately. I mean, I do think there's probably life in the universe.
You don't think anyone's ever been abducted, though?
Yes.
No, I mean humans from aliens, not just in general. I know people abduct other people. all the
No,
time.
no, of course not.
You don't know?
No. I believe the human mind can play tricks on people and stuff, but
And people are attention seekers is another thing.
yeah, and people are crazy. By the way. Lots of people are crazy. Do I believe in I believe there's alien life out in the universe because statistically it would be impossible not to. Because if life can exist here, it must be able to exist in the billion trillions of other stars in the universe and stuff. And so,
well, that was something
I
that sort of
think
came
that's
up
kinda cool.
in the podcast that I listened to. They were saying like it's very narcissistic of us to imagine that we're the only ones, you know?
yeah, I mean, for sure. But I mean, as far as we know, we are. We're like evolution. Like evolution to me is like my religion. Like the process of it is so cool, and it's like life itself like flows like water anywhere.
Yeah.
Like the first drop of life went boop, and then it just like flowed, being chased by entropy the entire time. Like life came up by accident, and the universe was like, stop, you can't do that.
Yeah.
Like the natural order is nothingness, and life was like, fuck you, and it just divided any which way it could to avoid being not life.
It found a way.
Yeah.
That was my best Jeff Goldblum I could do on the
That
spot. It wasn't that good.
I thought that was Sam Neill. I thought that was Ariana Richards from Jurassic Park.
I don't know who that is.
That's the girl.
Which girl?
The girl in
daughter?
Jurassic Park, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, you say it like I'm supposed to remember the actress.
It's a
that
pretty
played.
big movie.
Well, she wasn't really.
I had
the
a
lead,
crush on her at the time.
and that explains.
We
it.
were the same age. I recently was saying someone. I was like, "Oh, I had a crush on that girl," and they're like, "Now?" I'm like, "Not now. I'm 42, and she was 11." I'm like, "What the hell are you talking about?" I'm like, I was the same age as this girl. It wasn't illegal at the time.
Yeah.
But have I ever had a near-death experience? I don't think so. I've had some. I'm sure I've been in some almost car accidents.
Yeah, with some close calls. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. But like, was I about to die? I don't know. Maybe. No, nothing too serious like that.
What's the worst you've ever gotten injured? Then let's switch it to that.
The worst I've ever gotten injured.
Yeah.
I've luckily been not that injured in my life. I dislocated my kneecap when I was in high school.
That sounds rough.
Yeah, it wasn't great. It popped out to the side and it was like sticking kind of off my knee, and my knee was bent like that. And I went to the hospital and they popped it back in. And I had to do some exercises to fix it.
Physio type stuff.
Physio stuff. Other than that, I've been pretty blessed with.
You never broke a bone other than that?
I think I might have broken my toe at one point, but I think I broke a rib. That sucked actually.
Oh shit! Yeah.
I was playing basketball and I bruised or broke a rib, and it for like a month breathing hurt.
And there's nothing they can really do.
No,
I've seen some guys with broken ribs. They'll tie have like bandages around. I don't know if the pressure helps or whatever, but
that's the ultimate badass move. When you see the guy when he's wrapped up on here and then he puts his shirt on, he goes back out to like fight and detectivize or whatever, and everyone's like, "Whoa, he's so tough." He's
so rough and tumble.
Going out with it. Yeah. I always thought that looked really cool. The same way that those shoulder holsters for guns look cool.
Or the leg ones are pretty cool too.
I guess.
It's got to be small to fit on the leg, though.
Yeah, the shoulder one just looks badass. You're like a 70s, 80s cop who's just like...
Double?
Yeah, double.
Doubles, sure. I would say. I mean, not a big gun guy, but...
I don't think you're legally allowed to just shoot two guns when you're a cop. Bang, 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 bang,
bang. In Texas, maybe.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, well, I'm going to ask you this season, unless you have a question. I don't know. No, not really for this one. I mean, he's a repeat guest.
You're gonna have to cut this.
It was the only question I had was like Tavis is unusual, and I'm just wondering.
Not you as a person, but your name.
Thanks.
You must be getting. People call you Travis a lot.
But then I reminded him I'm almost positive talked about this.
Probably
the first time you came on.
Yeah.
And that's actually one thing I did want to talk about was the interesting dynamic when you have a return guest, because I found like in one way, it's kind of
this is our X-Men too. This is I'm Jamie Foxx in the second Spider-Man at this point, because the origin story you've already found out.
Well, that's what I mean. There's not as much setting up and just figuring out, who is this person and what made you get into comedy and all that shit. Like, in a way, though, that's kind of good, especially early on, because it gave me material. It was like, okay, half my notes are just like asking this person about. So when you have a return guest, I always make sure it's somebody that I know I can talk to, where like the last time we talked ended with us just like in free-flowing conversation where I didn't want it to end kind of thing.
Yeah,
you know?
I actually regretted that because I ran out of time here. I had to go.
Did you?
I had to go do a show.
About that.
Yeah, I had to go do a show at Shanghai, and I was like, "Fuck!" I wanted to stay and chat.
Oh, thank you. That makes me feel very good. I would say that there's a lot of those early episodes that I would love to interview some of those people again, because we were plagued with technical difficulties, and I would assume that I've grown as a host. So yeah, there's a lot of people I'm going to call up sooner or later to come back. Just because it's such a different vibe now. Well,
especially like post-pandemic, you'd be like, "Hey, how's your life? Yeah. How has your life fallen apart in the last 2 years?" Like, slowly.
Yeah, well, everyone, it's common ground. At least everyone can relate.
Yeah.
But yeah, we had some really bad ones back in the day where just the technical side fucked things up.
This is where you're supposed to put a thing where you're like, go check out that old episode, and not be like, those were terrible.
Well, you know what?
God, don't even watch them.
I don't know how I feel about that. I will obviously leave them up, but I don't know that I even want to rewatch some of the older ones. And that's nothing against those guests, and they're probably not as cringeworthy as I'm assuming. But
well, I don't want to rewatch this, and I'm currently living in it.
No, but like, would you want to watch like your oldest stand-up bits, like from when you first started? You're going to be like, oh God, I didn't really know what I was doing, and arguably, I'm sure I'm still figuring things out every time I do an interview. But yeah, I know I would be shaking my head at past me and some just the flow of things. I don't know.
Oh yeah, definitely. Well, I mean, unless you don't get better as a artist or whatever your thing is, then you probably wouldn't love looking back on stuff. You're like, oh, that was so basic and whatever.
No, but there's the opposite side where some people would actually go and actively delete older stuff because they're like, I don't really like how I came off in that or whatever. And I never really thought about that, but I remember having a similar conversation when I was talking to John Doerr, and he said like, oh, leave them up. Like, it's all showing the journey, So you shouldn't be embarrassed of that stuff. It should be celebrated that, it wasn't perfect, but that's how I started to refine and chip away at whatever it is that I'm working on with this shit.
Yeah, 100%, man, for sure. I'm not ashamed of my older stuff. There's jokes I certainly wouldn't ever do again.
Yeah.
Because they were like everyone. When I started doing comedy, I was a little bit like, I'm going to push some buttons, I'm going to say stuff that's like, ooh, I'm a little stinker. And you're like, and then you realize like, that could just do more harm to someone than good. Like, there's no reason to call something out when it could hurt someone's feelings in the
Well, and some of that
audience. 'Cause
stuff hasn't aged well.
Yeah, but if I want to hurt someone's feelings in the audience, I do it to their face because
Yeah.
I love interacting with the crowd and making fun of them and stuff. But I wouldn't want to do some backhanded thing where it seems like, oh, that you're lesser than for
punching
the way,
down and targeting people and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, shit. Well, you know what, man? I'm going to ask you season 3 question here because I feel like I've gone through pretty much everything and we've gone all over the place. It's been a blast.
You're
Probably
gonna
been
have to cut this into like 3 different episodes.
not if I want to get it up for tomorrow. It's going to be as little editing as possible. I may put out some pictures of these SuperPro guys, so that'll be pretty fun.
Yeah, sick.
So season 3, we've been asking people, what is your dream job? And that has sort of transformed in some situations into what did you want to be growing up? So either or, however you want to answer that.
I can answer both of them.
If they're the same, then that's
They're
awesome.
not.
No. Most people, it's not. Yeah.
I mean, I've come to terms with the fact that I tend to surround myself with people who are like fairly unemployable philosopher types. Like that's seems to be my crowd.
Comedians?
Comedians and like friends I have outside of comedy that I was attracted to as friends who were like guys who like to think about stuff and like that isn't a calling. That's like what I would do if someone paid for my lifestyle, I'd go drink coffee and solve the world's problems with my friends and stuff. Kind of like this. I mean, this kind of stuff. Like,
so wait, you're saying your dream job would be
yeah, probably. But I mean, when I was
paid to shoot the shit?
Sure, yeah. which is kind of being a comedian as well.
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah.
I love doing if I could work full time and make a good living as a comedy writer, and then I would have my nights to do shows if I wanted to and shit like that. That would be good. I don't need anything. I don't need fame, fortune. I just need like that would be
consistent work and
that would be it, and work on my stuff and do that, and then have time to do other things. Because one of my problems is I have no overall ambition, like the thing with doctors and the thing with like people driven. Like I don't have the drive to do that. I don't have the ambition. I have the ambition to 1 minute to the next to write an amazing joke or whatever the fuck, pick up my guitar and play a song. But it doesn't mean I want to do that all summer, touring around playing a song. Yeah. I change all the time. I would just love to be able to be creative as much as I can and still...
But have that be financially viable all the time.
Yeah, definitely. That would be my dream, which is kind of a pretty small but important
No,
dream.
that's actually interesting because it shows what a through and through like comic you are, because there's a lot of comedians I feel like I might be able to ask that question to, and if it's dream job, they might go like, oh, I always wanted to be an archaeologist or whatever, like because it's that genie in the bottle scenario we're saying here, but you're like being real about it.
Well,
like,
as a licensed archaeologist, that would be weird for them to be like,
oh, that's right.
Giving up. Yeah.
Did you told us that last time, eh? Shit, I totally forgot about that.
Still licensed. Haven't done it in a long time, but
and you say you have no ambition. How'd you get that?
Just working. Just working my way up.
No, I'm just saying you clearly have some ambition if you're a licensed archaeologist. That's what
I don't have zero ambition. Like I have to eat and and pay the mortgage kind of ambition.
Your dad, yeah.
Yeah, and being a parent is important. When I was a kid, and this isn't a joke, I really liked the idea of being a garbage man or like I just thought I was like, oh, that'd be cool. You get to work outside. It was because it was like one of the only things I could conceptualize where you worked outside and you did stuff.
Yeah, and it smells half the time.
Yeah, I know. I didn't mind that. Like it wasn't a real serious thing, but I always was like, that'd be kind of cool. You get to see different stuff, and
I think they make good money too.
Yeah, you make
what I've heard.
Money.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, because no disrespect to garbage men, somebody's got to do that job, and I hope they get paid well for doing that.
Also, you only have to work 1 day a week.
Somehow I don't think that's how it works, but oh man, that's funny.
But no, I've never. My dream job was always to just do whatever I wanted to day to day. That would be my thing. Like let's go learn how. Like,
so you want to be a billionaire?
Kind of, I guess. I mean, I just want to be free of the shackles of like having to do something.
Yeah.
But that being said, when I'm working, I love working. I love doing what I'm doing. But even if it's stupid, if someone's paying me to scrub the floor, I'm going to scrub your floor real good.
Yeah.
Because you're paying me for it. But it doesn't mean that's my calling.
There's no work you wouldn't do even if people were paying you? What wouldn't you do no matter how much someone paid you? And I don't mean
a lot of things.
Murdering someone.
No,
No, but I mean like fairly common job. Like if you were like, oh, there's no way I'd ever be a fucking dentist. Like something like that, you know? Like what's a fairly common, popular job that lots of people do have that you would never, ever do in a million years?
When I was like 17 or 18, I worked as a short order cook, like a cook in a bar.
It's stressful.
For about 3 days. I did one day and I was like, I don't know about this. And the second day I go, look, I can't do this anymore. I'm going to find something else. I hate it. And the guy's like, I really need you to come in tomorrow and cover this shift, and then you can quit after that. And I was like, okay. So I worked there for 3 days, and I would never do it again. I have mad respect for people who work in kitchens. It's a fucking tough job, and it's
so that's why you just found it like really stressful.
I just hated it. I hated being burned by deep fryers. I hated being there for 11 hours a day, fucking making a club sandwiches and shit. But I love cooking, but like cooking for bucks, not for me.
Yeah, I was a dishwasher for a while, and
I was a dishwasher too, and I much prefer being a dishwasher and bus.
It still got stressful though, like when the whole place would get jumping and it'd be packed on like a Friday night or something, because then the whole engine of the machine starts running faster. And like, yeah, I'm not the guy sauteing the delicate whatever the fuck, but I'm the guy that he's yelling like, we need more pans or whatever the fuck. Like, so that stress trickles down.
Oh yeah, the kitchens are brutal, man. Not a great
it's
place.
Adrenaline like crazy.
And there's so many drug issues and stuff in kitchens. Like,
we got drunk all the time.
Yeah. People don't understand that haven't worked in service industry. Like everyone should work in the service industry. Make everybody a little bit better as people.
There's still such a huge difference between front of house and back of house too, though. Like being in the kitchen is so different than being like a fucking server or something.
Yeah, but both of them. I mean, they
have their own things to go up against. They
got to deal with the public, and the public are generally assholes. Like the kitchen are also generally assholes.
But they're assholes to each other in a fun way.
Yeah, for sure.
No, we used to get drunk. We would steal. They had like these boxes of wine that we would just kind of hide up on the shelf while we were like being dishwashers.
Yeah.
And then we would. You could have unlimited pop there or whatever from the fountain machines. So we would just make like wine spritzers and get hammered.
Yeah. One thing we did at the place I worked was we had like onion chips, which would be like small onion ring type of things, like the petals from whatever.
Yeah. Okay.
And they were like the favored food for like if someone put it up in the hot plate thing and you would just shake the plate a bit and a couple of them would fall off and you could eat those.
Oh, nice.
It was great.
Man, I'm trying to think. The thing we probably ate the most was stuffed baked like potatoes, where you like gut them out and then you mash all the
those
stuff.
Those have gone. Like in the 90s, potato skins were a big thing. Like you get like wings and potato skins and stuff.
Yeah.
And I mean, I don't look for them much anymore, but I haven't seen them. Like,
you don't even get wedges that often anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sad.
Back to that riveting stuff.
This is a real conversation though.
Yeah.
I miss potato wedges. Yeah, me too.
Someone's going to relate to that.
Sucks. Yeah, for sure.
All right. Well, man, I guess that's it. You know, so we have a good time. I hope you come back again some other time.
I'd love to.
A high five at the end like we do. For you, I don't know. I guess if
that was
you still want to play.
Let me try again.
Yeah, it's hard across the table. Nice. Yeah, I don't know if you want to do the arcade again. You've already played me once, but it's always up for grabs. And
I think I got to go pretty soon. But
no worries. Yeah, we've already played. No big deal.
Yeah, I beat you, so I think I'll just.
Did you?
retire.
I can't remember.
Yeah,
it was so long ago.
Yeah, definitely.
I had just gotten into that point.
Yeah.
Anyways, all right. Goodbye to everybody. Hope we didn't.
Yeah,
get too many
let me do my promo.
Sure. Yes. Yeah. Plug anything.
Okay. Please. If you guys like what you saw over the past 6 hours of this podcast, you can check me out on YouTube, Tavis Maplesden. I write for the Trevor's Pad, which is every Tuesday night, which is Twitch TV/Trevor's Pad. It's a late night, kind of ranty late night comedy show.
Trevor's been on the show.
Okay, sure. Yeah. And on Thursdays, I'm generally on Codenames Live, which is at twitch.tv/Tim Riel. Look up Codenames Live. We play the game Codenames, and it's a lot of fun, and we drink wine. And
Tim has also been on the show.
Yeah, and check out all these former guests on this show. Go check out my old one for my backstory. Watch it before this one. So at this point, I'm telling you to go back and watch that one before you watched this thing I'm talking about right now.
No one's going to do that. What I've noticed with YouTube statistics is that generally not very many people make it to the very end of an episode, let alone a long episode like this. So
yeah.
I probably should have asked for your promo stuff earlier on, but
that's all right.
But as for your YouTube and all that, that'll come up at the beginning of the episode underneath you.
Yeah,
like
awesome.
appear. Yeah, you were talking about code names, though. I'm actually supposed to do that again on March 7th, and I'm bringing Glenn Humplick to be my partner.
Oh, no way. That's awesome.
So, yeah, I'm really excited for that. Hopefully that...
I love it. It's so fun, dude. It's so fun.
Oh, dude, every time I've done that, which is twice, I guess, but I'm like pissing myself laughing.
Yeah.
You have a couple drinks, you embarrass the shit out of yourself, putting the stupidest answers, and then Tim chirps you and makes you feel even stupider, but it's great.
It's such a good game, though. It works perfectly. It's such a perfect online game. Perfect thing for the pandemic. Like, you just need your Skype and you can do this thing. It's cool.
The only thing I find hard as a contestant on that show is like paying attention to the chat that's going on, the live chat or whatever. Because they're always like, oh, you can check the chat if you're looking for help or whatever. But I don't like having two different laptops in front of me, and I don't know, I'm not that tech savvy, I guess.
Yeah, me too.
Anyways, yeah, so check him out on all that stuff, and check me out on that on the 7th, hopefully, as long as that goes through, should. And the rambling will end now.
Yeah. No, that's great. Thanks for having me, dude.
All right, yo. See you again, man.
Okay.
Take it easy.